Welcome to the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast with your host, two-time defending ATV motocross national champion, Cody Janssen.
Am I on air? What's up, everybody? We're back. I'm your host, Cody Janssen, and welcome to episode 60 of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, our Loretta Lynn's review pod, presented by our title sponsor, CST Tires, available for purchase today at shop.csttires.com. It was so good to be back at Loretta's, and the racing was just as hot as the weather, which is saying something when you're at the ranch. We'll break down and analyze another wild weekend of racing in the episode ahead. Casey Greek will join us per the usual, and Brett Musick will join us later on in the episode and talk about winning pro sport at Loretta's, competing against one another in the pro class, all the way back to his mini quad days, and so much more fun conversation. I've really been looking forward to this one, and you're truly going to enjoy it. Major thanks to our sponsors who are all on board with us tonight. CST Tires, go to shop.csttires.com. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. Valvoline, SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Namura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Impact Solutions, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, Forworks Carbon, DP Brakes, Gripped Gloves, Factory 43, Bikes, Trikes and Quads LLC, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Their clippers rock, their nose hair trimmer is amazing, and they have brand new industry-leading products that just hit the market as well. The new Lawnmower 4.0 from Manscaped is my secret to keeping a perfect beard. This new electric trimmer is so nice that, full disclosure, I've been using it only on my facial hair. Shh. So check out Manscaped. I wish I would have sooner. Get 20% off with free shipping by using code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Support all these great companies that support us, and for any products that fall through the cracks, you know what to do. Click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website to help us out. By accessing Rocky Mountain from our specific link, we get a percentage of that, and we both know you need parts and gear. So this is the easiest way to help support us, to help us out in a major way. Just use that link instead of the standard Rocky Mountain link. That's all we're asking, and we really appreciate that. No matter what off-road gear parts you need, Rocky Mountain ATVMC has you covered. So before you buy, click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website to help us out in a major way. We can't thank you enough for that. We have one new donor to shout out this week, Justin Branham, who actually won one of our rounds of Digging Deep ATVMX Fantasy earlier this season. Congrats on that. But he's been so gracious to send over a donation this week, stating that he loved our content and the spotlight that we're putting on guys who deserve the coverage. So Justin, we just want to thank you so very much for the support and the kind words. This is exactly why we work so damn hard at this. You're the man. Thank you so much. For anybody else who's interested, you can find the Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee donation links on our website. Like I said, for anybody that's interested in possibly donating as well, thanks so much, guys. Now, the 30-second board is up, it's sideways, and the gate is down. Time to dig deep. Let's go. All right, guys, he's one of the voices of ATV motocross. He's the suspension tuner of the stars, and he's a staple on these race review podcasts, brought to you by Blenders Eyewear, delivering the world's raddest and most affordable eyewear to people like us who are adventurous and live life in forward motion. Brooke, Dallas, and myself absolutely love our blenders, and you will too. Use discount code DIGGINGDEEP20 at blenderseyewear.com. Coming to us from one of my favorite places in the world, from Impact Solutions. Say hello to Mr. Casey Greek. What's up, Casey? How's Gatlinburg?
Hey, Cody, it's good. Happy to be here again, and trying to spend a little bit of family time this week. I think we've been here 2 days, and got to head home and get back to work and get back on the grind and get the kids ready for school, starting back up on Monday, and all that kind of good stuff. So just kind of worked out to where we had a little pit stop on the way home from Loretta's and get to enjoy our time a little bit. And today looks like it's actually going to be beautiful. It rained all day yesterday, so looking forward to enjoying that.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you making a little time for us during your family trip there. I'm glad you guys are doing that. You guys had the family at the racetrack at Loretta's there, which was awesome. So grateful that all worked out for you guys. Grateful you're here with us now, and looking forward to get into Loretta Lynn's here. So here's the plan tonight. Casey and I are going to recap Loretta Lynn's from this past weekend, and then we're going to drop another episode next week as we cover things as we get a little closer to Briarcliff, previewing the finale for you guys. So now that you guys know the schedule, let's get right into another crazy event. This one at Loretta Lynn's. And Casey, I feel like I've been saying this after each one of these things, but this was another wild one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was an exciting race. A lot of crazy things happened. Some unfortunate things happened, I would say. And, it's just one of those weekends that you couldn't have called the cards the way they fell and predicted it going into the weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think about this every weekend. I think about it more now than ever before, now that we do the fantasy thing. You'd think after the whole season that we've seen play out here that we'd be able to predict these things a little better, but it's so damn hard. So, but Casey, like we do every week, before we dig too deep, let's start things off with the Impact Solutions Impact Moment. I think you kind of touched on it there. This is where we highlight something good and positive happening in ATV motocross. And I think you're going to kind of touch on a scary moment that we saw right away on Saturday morning. So give us your Impact Solutions Impact Moment.
Yeah, definitely. This isn't a positive by any means, but I did reach out to Wesley on Monday. Monday or Tuesday there, and just asked him if he wanted to say something. Wesley's not huge on, doing these kind of shows or, even social media stuff. And I figured he wanted to kind of get his voice out there. So super scary moment for Wesley. I think second lap of first qualifier. And basically what he said, I mean, I'll read it pretty much for verbatim of what he had texted me.
Okay.
Just because he was using voice chat because his arm was messed up.
Yep.
Or, voice to text. Plus, I'm sure there were some pain pills involved. So some of it doesn't really make 100% sense. But I did talk to him here just about 15 minutes ago just to kind of clarify a couple things. I wanted to find out his whole list of injuries.
Okay.
And just kind of go back over what was going on. And basically he just says it's just a freak accident. When they told me the quad shut off, I knew right away that it actually shut off, but it wasn't because the bike blew up or there was a mechanical malfunction. He basically blames it on himself. He said, I have heavy shoulders and it was a mistake on myself. He's like, I don't really know why I didn't bail. He said, it's just not my style to give up. Which is true to Wesley.
Yes, it is.
There's a freak accident, nobody's fault. Just extremely thankful, and it was an eye opener the amount of people that have reached out and called and text. He's very thankful for his girlfriend, and then he goes through Jacob Stevens, Johnny Hale, his mom and dad, his entire crew. And kind of hear it's just unbelievable how many people had reached out, and that's the positive of this.
Mm-hmm.
And it can go into like the Impact Solutions moment if we want to. There is how many people actually reached out to him, and the list of injuries for him is unreal. Broken forearm, he had a pinhole in his lung, broken rib, had to completely reconstruct his elbow. And like talking to him, he said they pretty much had to take his elbow out, put it on the table, reconstruct it all, and put it back in. The doctor came in and basically told him, like, your elbow's a mess.
Oh my.
So, which we didn't even know that at the track. Like, I didn't even know that was a problem. I just heard that he broke both arms, or broke two bones in his arm.
Yeah, that's what I had heard too.
Yeah. So then he had blood on his spleen, which is why he didn't end up getting surgery till Monday.
Okay.
Obviously concussion. He doesn't remember much of the crash after hitting the ground because he pretty much drove that thing in at, like, I said 6:00, he said 8:00. So okay. I'm like, you were upside down? He's like, yeah, I think so. So he doesn't remember a bunch of that. But one thing he wanted to set on was, that it wasn't the bike blowing up like everyone said it was. He doesn't want Johnny to take that on his shoulders.
Okay.
And as a past mechanic and as a suspension tuner, we never want a failure on our hands at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know Johnny was beating himself up pretty hard. And I talked to Johnny midday and he's like, yeah, I washed the bike. I put it in the trailer, kicked it and fired right up. So, I mean, that tells us right there that, maybe it was a mental, mistake on Wesley.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something goofy just went on. No one's really ever going to know. I know when Rodney announced it, he said it just went like the bike just went silent. But if Wesley's foot hit the rear brake, locked everything up, and Wesley didn't have the clutch in or something, right. I mean, there we go. It just shuts the thing down and they hit the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was really cool for me to see. I mean, before I even got over to talk to Johnny, I was going over to talk to Johnny and just tell him like, hey, for one race, I actually have my vehicle here. It's up at the top of the hill. I'll go get it if you guys need it. I know Johnny had his truck there, but they had quite a few people they needed to transport to the hospital to be by Wesley's side.
Yep.
And then, so they were going to take Johnny's truck. But if Johnny needed to go somewhere, or, Eric, Wesley's dad, I was just like, hey, here's my vehicle, take it. And the same thing, John Ford came right up to me as I was headed over to talk to Johnny. And he said, make sure Johnny knows I got a couple different vehicles here. They're right here. The keys are in them. Take them if those guys need them, or if Eric needs it, or any of that kind of stuff. So it's always good to see the outpouring of the community. And, that was kind of, what I wanted to shoot after was just kind of letting, Wesley explain himself a little bit there and get that statement out. I know there's a lot of concerned people out there, and Wesley has a pretty good following. And he's one of the, the blue collar hard worker guys of the sport. And it was fun talking to him this morning. You could tell he's in some pain. He said last night was pretty rough. It's the first night that like all the hospital, painkillers and stuff have wore off completely.
Okay.
And so he said it was rough, and trying to figure out how to sleep with your arm completely in that cast and with pins and everything in your arm now.
Okay.
And, this is one of Wesley's first big injuries. And, he said, my whip bones just don't break. And I said, Wesley, you've always been the young guy. You're not the young guy anymore. You're up here in age with the, seasoned guys in this class now. I think he's been in the pro class 5 or 6 years now. So he's not quite the young, little buck that he was when he entered the pro class. So it's good. I think it's an eye opener for him, not in a bad way. He's bummed that he won't be able to race Briarcliff. Like he's like mad. So he said he should be good. He said his goal is to be off of all pain medicine by the end of this week. Okay. And he plans on attending Briarcliff as long as he can drive. And the doctor said he can drive as long as he's not on any pain medication, obviously. Sure. So that's his plan right now. So, and I told him, I said, I think that'll be good. A lot of people want to see you and know that you're okay. It could have been a lot worse. The doctors, and I think someone else had told him that it could have been really bad. Like to the unspoken, the things that we don't want to speak about on any show or, even in public. And that was kind of when I went and talked to Eric, when he was getting ready, you could tell he was obviously rattled. We all know the risks that we take when we step foot over these machines. And I told Eric, he's like, well, he's definitely a broken arm and concussion. And I said, well, he's moving, he's talking, his fingers, toes, everything. He said, yeah. And I said, well, that's the best case scenario for the accident that had happened, and that sounds cold in a sense, but in the real time of this real world, that's the best case scenario, is to have a broken arm and a concussion. Yeah. Yeah. We don't want anyone to have even a bump or a bruise. Right. But it could go the other direction. So, best wishes for Wesley and healing. I was excited to actually talk to him this morning and just kind of get his feel and his take on everything that was going on.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a few things I want to touch on there. I mean, when something so scary like that happens, it does become very apparent how everybody is in this thing together, that everybody, when something like that happens, it's like everybody just bands together for that person. And I think you really saw that. You saw that right when it happened. You've seen that since, everybody kind of pulling together for Wesley. Just so to hear some of that is pretty cool. And a couple other things, like one thing that we'll touch on as we kind of go here, this Loretta's was a little different this year in the fact that some of the faces were big on the jumps. I don't know, like if the people on the sidelines would have noticed that, but some of the faces were much bigger than years past. That jump was probably one of the ones that, was pretty built up. And I didn't actually see the crash. I just missed it. So I saw Wesley on the ground there, and he was in a precarious spot. Like, it was a weird spot to be laying. So yes, like, it seems to me that things could have had the opportunity to go much worse, to be much worse for him. So the fact that he got out of that, yeah, he's got some gnarly injuries, but there's stuff that he's all going to be able to overcome. That's another really big thing. And, man, it's just the biggest part of it that sticks with me is Wesley Wolf has absolutely no question stood out in 2021 in the way that he improved, the way that he became a contender, and getting podiums for the first time. I mean, he took a jump that I definitely didn't expect him to, and that's impressive. So ATV community, amazing. Wesley, obviously, we're thinking about him, but I'm glad that he got out of there without worse injuries. And then the fact that, man, don't let this ending overshadow how amazing of a season he had. So T's and P's to Wesley Wolf, thoughts and prayers, obviously, to him, and he'll look to come back better than ever in 2022. I don't know how all that'll go down. I know, like JJ Launderville, he messed up his elbow real bad. And, you're looking at, 9 to 12 months when you got something gnarly with an elbow like that's tough. So I don't know how that'll all work out for Wesley Wolf as far as timing goes. We'll obviously learn that in the months going forward. But Casey, if social media had a vote, kind of touching on what I was just talking about there, over the course of the last week or two, since our last episode, when we kind of mulled over this topic, they indicated that WW would have been the slam dunk favorite for most improved pro here in 2021. And that's kind of where I want to end this with is, man, let's not forget, just because he didn't race the last two events here, how absolutely stand out impressive Wesley Wolf was this past season.
Yeah, definitely. And that's, one of the calls that I had made was, was it Wesley or Jeffrey in the sense of the most improved guy. So, no, very, very impressive season going, for Wesley. It's a bummer to end it the way it's going to end. He did tell me the doctor told him to not even think about touching a quad for 3 months. So he's in a little bit better situation than JJ is. JJ is in a pretty rough,
great to hear. Yeah. Awesome.
Situation. So I think with the head injury that Wesley had, that's probably the most serious side to what is all wrong with him. Mm-hmm. But I think, 3 months is definitely a positive for him to take that time off and get himself back to 100%. He said the unfortunate part for him is doctor told him he can't go back to work for at least 6 weeks, which we all know the way Wesley is. He's probably ready to go swing a hammer right now. Right. So, there's some positives there and some learning. And I think it's going to give Wesley the time to kind of reset and get re-geared for 2022. And he's definitely fired up and ready to go.
Awesome. Well, that's great to hear, because on Friday night, and Wesley isn't a guy that I communicate a ton with. We've invited him on the show a few times. And like you said, he's more of a private guy, right? But his dad and specifically his uncle, both probably for the last 5 years, seek me and my family out on every single race weekend. So Bobby comes over, and his dad had been over previously, but on Friday night, and we're talking about, hey, he's only 15 points down from third. Like, he's got these podiums this year. I mean, he's very much in contention for this thing. And I was also told that, he's, he obviously, it's obvious to us watching how this season played out, that he grabbed another gear this season. He improved in a major way. It seems like that Johnny Hale program has been the perfect recipe for him. And it sounds like he's going to take even another step, or his plan before all this was to take another step with preparation and maybe doing even a little more this off season. So hopefully he's able to overcome these injuries and kind of stick to that plan, because it sounded like we can almost expect him to take another jump next season from what I was told. So that'll be really interesting to see how all that plays out. But again, thoughts and prayers to him. He had such an impressive season going. There's no arguing that. That's for certain. Let's move on to that then. That was our Impact Solutions Impact moment. Let's move on to the rest of the racing then. And so Joel Hetrick took the top spot in qualifying, and all indications were that he was locked in and in a great mental space heading into this one. Casey, tell me about that.
Yeah, I think Joel comes into Loretta's all the time feeling pretty confident. he just got done, got his house closed, got moved into his new house. And, I was glad that Joel kind of mentioned that on the podium, like that he had been going through some stuff, not negative stuff in his personal life, but just stuff that kind of, I think, kept him away from, being 100% focused. And when you're racing at this level, you have to be 110% focused on only this, and your entire life is devoted. So I'm glad he actually said that. I've been saying it for a little bit, but what does that mean? That doesn't mean nothing. And so for him to actually kind of verbalize that was really cool. I think he's in a good spot. He's real close to the shop now, so he gets to spend some more time with the guys in the shop, and they can help him out with his practice machine and stuff like that. So I think just come down to a couple good starts for him and getting himself in a position. And we didn't see first moto, I thought we were going to see a little bit more of a battle transpire, but I think there was a small mistake of Joel coming in 10 commandments, and it just gave Chad that little bump. And, Joel had to spend some time getting around a couple guys to get into position. And I seen, just watching lap times, he was closing a little bit on Chad, but those two right now, their speed is, virtually identical. So it really, really comes down to mistakes and who starts in front of who.
Yeah. So specifically, and we'll get into more of the racing as we go here, kind of moto by moto, but I was glad that Joel touched on that on the podium. I thought it was him being really real and authentic. And I think we do get that a lot of times from Joel, but it was more just like you said, giving a glimpse into all the real world stuff that he was dealing with at the time. And it was great to see him though at the racetrack at Loretta's kind of be the Joel Hetrick that we've seen and expected over the course of the last however many years. So that was great to see. But let's get into the racing then, Casey, because any Digging Deep ATVMX fantasy player out there knows that qualifying literally has no impact on the motos. It just muddies the waters. And speaking of mud, the track started out muddy both Saturday and Sunday, but for the pros here on Saturday, the track was primo, with the sole exception of the hole shot. Basically, the track was in perfect condition, just the hole shot sucked.
Yeah, and I think the start is pretty much the lowest point on that track, and
it had to be. I've
been well, yeah, obviously. I've been racing at Loretta's, between ATVs and dirt bikes since the early part of the 2000s. So probably 2002 was the first time I was at Loretta's, and they've always gotten the track to come around really quick. And that's what we've seen this weekend. The track was always pretty good, maybe a little one line for a little bit, something like that. But then it would start opening up and we'd get lines in it. But yeah, the starting line was just a train wreck all week. I was up there quite a few times with Dane Molander and stuff, but I'm just like, wow, like the ruts out of the gate were just massive. And then obviously the slick and the snot all the way there. But racetrack wise, I think the race was fine. I was happy with the track all weekend. All the guys, talking with Janusa, like he really enjoyed the track. Joel, I didn't get to talk to Chad about the track exactly, but everyone was pretty happy with the track.
Yeah, no, I was impressed with it. Like I said, Loretta's is Loretta's. It's very similar every year. Like you said, that they are able to get it to come around real fast. Specifically though, this year, like I stated earlier, the faces were big. So it was cool. A lot of times, man, you have to stretch every jump on that track just to make the landings because the faces are rolled over. I don't know if it's that way for the bikes or if they're bigger for the bikes and then they just, kind of disintegrate over that week of racing that leads up to the quads going down there. But this year specifically, the faces were big and that was kind of fun, kind of different. They were as big as I, and as long as I can remember basically. But yeah, the Loretta's is Loretta's. And a lot of times we see great racing. And I think we saw that in Moto 1. Brandon Hogue ripped the whole shot there. He was my tier 2 fantasy pick. So I was stoked on that, but quickly Chad Wienen grabbed the lead and went on to lead every lap in this one. I guess I didn't really know what to fully expect from Chad with the points lead he had, but after I should say, but after a good start and getting to the lead, I guess the safest thing to do is go out and ride in clean air and try to win that moto. And that's exactly what he did in Moto 1.
Yeah, definitely. And Chad's proved this year that he's not laying down for anybody. He's there to fight. And even in the second moto, and we'll get there too, he's in it. Like, He's racing 100% one race at a time right now.
Yeah.
You know, and there's nothing you can take from that, you know, or take away from that. You can take a whole lot from that in the sense that the fight in his age and where he's at right now is still just as strong as it was when he was 23, 24, 25 years old.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's legendary. So Hogue remained in second for the first 2 laps before Joel got him, and Joel made a run at Chad. You kind of referenced that already. Near the middle of the moto, Joel made a run at Chad, but it was just never able to get close enough to really make it interesting.
Yeah, just couldn't get, you know, enough. And that's what I said. They're splitting hairs, and we've seen that in qualifying. You know, a couple tenths here, a couple tenths there. You know, and so you just watched it, and you know, from our side, you're wanting Joel, you know, from my side, you're wanting Joel to get up there and make a race of it. And I think as the fan perspective side of it, we obviously want to see that race. And it just never really transpired. You know, Brandon was riding so good for the first 3/4 of the moto. And he had a mistake late in that moto that ended up costing him quite a few positions.
Yeah. So he was the next guy I kind of wanted to touch on. Let me state again, he was my fantasy pick. He was on my team all week long. He ran alone in third for the entire race. And then when the 2-lap board comes out, he falls from third to sixth. I was going to ask you, because I was sitting on the gate at the time. I was the moto after the pro first moto there. So I didn't see it, but what happened to Brandon Hogue with 2 laps to go in Moto 1?
There was an inside roller, and Joel actually had a mistake over it too, on the back side of the track, and on the outside of the corner, it was one of those corners that was still holding like the sloppy mud, and something had happened. He ended up in that and kind of got hung up and had to spin around. And he had already started to fade. I don't know if it was the heat or exactly what was going on with Brandon, even in both motos. But late in the motos, he really, you know, faded. And I hate to even mention that because Brandon is in incredible shape. And so I think there was just something off with him, you know, my personal opinion. And it means nothing. And I know nothing about training, obviously, but I think he's almost to the point where he's overtrained right now.
Sure.
And I think it hurt him this weekend. So he had spun out and did that, and it took him a minute to get going again. And, you know, he got past, he went from third to sixth. And, you know, Bryce and I think it was Bryce and Max and Janusa all got around him.
Yeah. So so he was kind of in no man's land in third there, and that pack behind him was catching him a little bit, but it sure seemed like he was going to be able to hold the spot. I mean, that's the way it looked. Like they were going to maybe be able to get up to him, but probably not get by him. That's the way it looked. It looked like third was his. So after that all goes down, Bryce Ford inherits the podium spot. And man, that first moto, and I know I made a post about this yesterday, but it might have been a preview of the future of ATV motocross, because Bryce Ford and Max Lindquist were bumper to bumper for nearly the entire moto. And like I said, that might have been a preview of what we can expect to see in the future of ATV motocross. We saw this on, or I should say, we spoke of this. We bantered about this on the previous episode.
Yeah, definitely. And Bryce didn't let me forget that either. He had called me out before the moto, or before the races even started. He came and found me, and he's like, "I can't believe you bet against me." And I said, "Well, if I did one thing, I fired you up." And like I said in the show, with full disclosure, like it's nothing against either one of those guys, and you know, it's just going off of like feelings or whatever it is, into what the future is going to hold. And when you look at the model that Max has to follow, and especially after Chad's comment at Redbud, it kind of puts me in a feeling that, you know, that relationship between Max and Chad isn't going to end, and Max is only going to get better there. But as soon as I seen Bryce after the first moto, he's like 17 minutes in, he's like, all I could think about is what you said, and that's what made me fight, just to make sure Max couldn't pass me. And I come over the podium and pretty much said, you know, F you, Casey, I proved you wrong, type of thing. So, and I told Bryce, I said, well, if it worked, it worked. That's fine. I'm not mad at that. And that was good racing. I mean, it's definitely a preview of what we're going to see in the future. Those two guys right now are the youngest guys in the class, and they're strong, and they're really, really good riders. And both of them are mature riders, and both of them are very consistent. Bryce is getting more and more consistent. His second moto didn't go as planned for him. And, we obviously seen his troubles at Redbud. So that's what I'm kind of saying, like just getting those final consistency points down is what Bryce needs. And, Max is killing it right now. I mean, 2 podiums, in a row. That's something that neither one of us called.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing what those kids are doing right now. Again, I needed to touch on that battle that we saw in the first moto there because it was impressive. And I was told by another member of the Ford camp there on Friday that your comments fired Bryce up. So I love it. I love that digging deep is a thing that these guys are listening to and thinking about whether they're on or off the racetrack. So impressive there for Bryce though, to hold off a hard charging Lindquist for 25 minutes. That's a long time to hit all your marks lap after lap. So great job to both of those guys. The last 2 guys I want to touch on individually in Moto 1 are Nick Janusa and Jeffrey Rastrelli. So Nick Janusa battled throughout the race to go from 8th to 5th, which is impressive. We talked about that all season long, to move up through that, what we call the tier 2 pack and Digging Deep ATVMX Fantasy. That's impressive to get up from 8th to 5th by the finish. Jeffrey Rastrelli, he kind of did the inverse. He went from 4th and fell to 7th throughout the moto, which was costly for Jeffrey because we know he's locked in that battle for 3rd in points.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Jeffrey, somewhere along the line he got a tire puncture, which is very uncharacteristic in these races. Being on groomed closed course races, we don't even run tire balls in front tires, and there was a gouge. So was it from the battle with him and Janusa, hitting each other and dicing with each other? Was it a random stick or a rock, just the way he landed? Incorrectly, but it was a smaller hole. So it wasn't like the thing just went completely flat. And I don't know if a lot of people really realize how much a tire can contract and expand even with a hole in it, because it allows it to breathe. So it allows the air to come back in the tire. Right. So I think it took him even a few laps to understand why his bike was so erratic.
Sure.
And, he told me, he's like, it just wore me flat out. He's like, and it took me forever to try to figure out what was going on. And then I realized, I have a flat front tire. And so to continue to push the way he did and finish as strong as he did with a flat front tire is still pretty impressive.
It is. So that, knowing that now, I'm so glad that we got to touch on that, because that changes the context of everything. Because he had a good second moto, a good solid second moto. Him dealing with that in the first moto is a shame. But I'm glad that we learned that, because that changes the context of everything. Yeah, it's a wonder what caused that. I saw a number of pictures where there was like the yellow Acerbis kind of track markers. I saw a bunch of those pictures stuffed in the berm and stuff. So who knows what causes that? But either way, I'm glad that we got that knowledge on Jeffrey there, because again, I think there was a lot of people scratching their heads because we haven't seen that. Jeffrey's been so strong. That fade was just odd to see there. But okay, so let's move on to Moto 2 then. Brandon Hogue rips another hole shot, but that's where the 2 similarities between the motos end, really, because they were very different. Joel Hetrick moved into the lead almost immediately and set sail. He eventually grabbed the moto win and the overall by over 10 seconds. And you could tell that this felt good for Joel Hetrick. He was pumped after he crossed the finish line with the win there. Really a dominating, controlling Moto 2 and overall victory there for him.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that he needed. I mean, he was very vocal about it, that he needed it. And he was more excited about that second moto win than I've seen him excited about a win in a long time. So, and it's been a while since he's won. And I think it was a step in the right direction for him, getting him back on track to where, he feels the confidence that he needs to have racing against someone like Jeff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was good. Like I said earlier, it was just good to see, the Joel Hetrick that we know and love and enjoy back, because we haven't seen that in a little while. The Joel Hetrick that we expect on a Loretta Lynn style racetrack, we saw that in Moto 2, and that was impressive. So he grabs the overall. It was his 5th win of the season. Chad Wienen didn't get as good of a start in Moto 1. And supposedly Max Lindquist was the one who bumped him off the track early in the opening lap. But he got the second right away. And you could tell he pushed early, but soon opted to back it down just a touch and play it safe. So runner up in the second moto meant second overall for Chad Wienen, and splitting motos on the day meant that he maintained his 22-point lead heading into the finale just a couple weeks from now. Solid day for Chad. It sounded like he was happy with it because he was, obviously gets the win in the first moto. That was good for him. Moto 2, he puts a little push on, and then you could watch him just back it down. At one point, it looked like he was, maybe not necessarily cutting into the lead, but he was matching Joel early, and then just backed it down, played it safe, ran in second, and kind of decided to take this thing to the finale with that 22-point lead.
Yeah, and their lap times were so close. Even first moto to second moto, in each other's lap times within tenths of each other every lap or lap after lap. So, I mean, Chad, if the wind's not there or he's not willing to go that fast with where he's at in points, and then with not losing any points, he did exactly what a champion does. And he just rode the thing in. He had no pressure from behind, and so it's sort of championship mode. But then we talk about like the first moto, that wasn't championship mode. Chad can afford to go 2-2 the rest of the season and still win with a very big points lead, and not even have to race at this point in the sense of racing against Joel. All he's got to do is beat the rest of the field and finish second. So he's not 100% in championship mode. He's in championship mode when he has to be, and that second moto was part of that.
Yeah, nobody is better at managing a title than Chad Wienen. He's proved that over the last decade. He's amazing at it. So yeah, but like you said, I mean, he's still going for it when it's there, and when, it's going to be a little sketchy to push for it, he, doesn't push for it. And that's what champions do. So that was impressive. Max Lindquist, fresh off his first career podium, passed Brandon Hogue early and basically ran all by himself for most all of the second moto there. He would finish third in Moto 2, and his 4-3 moto finishes would earn him another spot on the podium. The 17-year-old rookie earns back-to-back podium finishes with another third overall late in his rookie season. This kid is the real deal. I'm sure you would have loved to see him do it before Redbud, because that's what you called, but back-to-back, man, Redbud and now at Loretta's. Man, I don't know what to say. We've been saying we don't know what to say about this kid, but holy shit, is he making a statement here late in his rookie season?
Yeah, definitely. And that's what, we kind of expected, or, we had kind of foreseen earlier in the year. And what I've seen with him right now is his starts have improved. I think we would have seen more of this of Max earlier in the season with some better starts, but I think it goes down to like the confidence. And so the confidence is there for him right now, and he's getting the starts that he needs, and he's putting himself in that position. And, that second moto, he just kind of did his thing in third and ends up putting himself on the podium again. So impressive to say the least. And, he's actually made a pretty good race at this in the sense of where he's going to end up finishing points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll get into that as we kind of tie up Loretta specifically here. But yeah, Max Lindquist, I don't know what else to say, man. This kid is amazing. Nick Janusa, so he battled forward in both motos. This one, he raced up from 7th to 4th by the finish, which was good enough for 4th overall for him. Casey, Nick is back in the top 5 in pro class points as well now, which we know he's always done as a pro. Kind of put himself back in that position. Solid day for Nick Janusa, 4th overall. That's a good day.
Yeah, I think he was relatively happy. I think he was happy with his riding more than his paper score, because obviously he expects to be on the podium. Right. But he rode well, and it's just, I mean, it's beating a dead horse here, but it just starts when you look at the list of guys that he raced against his entire moto, they're all staples of this class. It's not like he just kind of jumped, through a bunch of the, back markers or guys that aren't quite on the same pace as he is. Like, he raced through the fastest guys in the class. So a solid day for Nick. 4th overall is nothing to be ashamed of. and it's just a matter of I think a couple position better starts going to put him into some more motos like he had at Sunset Ridge, that first moto of just a solid third place.
Yeah. Now for the listeners, think about what I'm saying here. Battling forward in that gnarly group, that battling through those guys, passing those guys, battling forward in both motos, that's the impressive part. So I'm not surprised that he was happy with the way he was riding. That was impressive in itself. So 4th overall for Nick Janusa was very solid. 5th was Jeffrey Rastrelli. He battled back and forth, 5th in Moto 2, I should say, for Jeffrey Rastrelli. He battled back and forth for the top 5 position all moto long. 7-5 for Jeffrey, 6th overall on the day. And now 8 points back of that 3rd place spot sits Jeffrey Rastrelli. He's going to need to be perfect at Briarcliff to achieve that desired top 3 spot, Casey.
Yeah. And the thing I wanted to touch, and I didn't want to go into it too early, talking about the first moto with Jeffrey, I think the fighting that he had to do in the first moto, the battling that he did with Nick Janusa, and then, having a flat tire, causing the bike to handle, obviously terrible. I don't know if anyone's ever ridden with a front flat tire, but that's no good.
Horrible,
I think it just pretty much flat out wore him out going into the second moto. So
sure,
he was up further in the race and put a fade on in the second moto because he was so fatigued after the first moto. Talking to him a little bit after the second moto and kind of getting his opinion.
Mm-hmm. That makes so much sense. Again, and with that kind of heat, with that kind of humidity, the track was pretty rough from starting the day out wet, which is always typical when you deal with those conditions. So it's not surprised that, battling that bike and the push that you get with a flat tire, and then, that the weather that they had, the track conditions that they had, it's not surprising. So hearing a little bit more about Jeffrey's day, it all makes so much sense. He fought his ass off. But like I said, he's going to be impressive. Obviously we know he wants that top 3 spot. But the guy he's battling, Bryce Ford, he was great in Moto 1, finished 3rd in Moto 1. We'll get right back to the show, but now a word from our sponsors. And thank you for listening to these ads. Without these great companies, none of this would be possible. Show your support for the people who support us. Welcome to the team, 2-time champ Joel Hetrick, who dropped the biggest news of the offseason when he announced his move to CST Tires. The CST takeover has been gaining momentum over the past several seasons, and now Joel Hetrick and his Phoenix Racing teammate Jeffrey Rastrelli are the most recent additions. The Pulse MXR tire has helped lead riders like Thomas Brown to race wins and 3 consecutive Quad Cross of Nations titles, Nick Janusa to the Pro Class podium, myself Cody Janssen as I rode my Pulse MXR fronts and white label soft compound rears to back-to-back national championships in the Junior 25 Plus class, and the most recent additions have us thinking a Pro Class national championship is on the horizon for CST tires. The Pulse MXR tire, available in soft and standard compounds, offers the highest level of traction, most predictable cornering, and superior wear characteristics when compared to the competition. Visit shop.csttires.com to join the CST takeover today, or prepare to be beat by someone who did. Joel Hetrick, Jeffrey Rastrelli, Nick Janusa, myself, and so many others are believers in CST tires. Are you? CST Tires, where passion meets the ground. You already know we're Team Blue Crew here at the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast. Whether it's second all-time winningest, 7-time and reigning ATVMX Pro Class National Champion Chad Wienen, or 6-time and current XC1 Pro ATV GNCC National Champion Walker Fowler, it's clear the podium-proven Yamaha YFC 450R is the winning choice of sport ATVs. This unprecedented success for the YFC 450R, its unrivaled quality and performance, and the undeniable fact that Yamaha is the leading OEM supporter of ATV racing has created a Yamaha takeover within the sport quad market. Better yet, Yamaha's Blue Crew Racer Support Program is back and even stronger for 2021, meaning Yamaha riders are about to cash in on higher payouts and more prize opportunities, including a chance to win a brand new YFZ 450R. For more info, head over to YamahaBlueCrew.com, follow them on social media at Yamaha Outdoors, and check out Yamaha's full proven off-road lineup at YamahaOutdoors.com today. For over 150 years, Valvoline has led the charge by being dedicated to constant improvement and innovation across all disciplines of racing. Valvoline has sponsored some of the greatest names in motorsports, and for the better part of a decade, I've been fortunate enough to be part of the historically great Team Valvoline. From my commuting vehicles to small engines, race quads, and everything in between, I trust nothing but Valvoline in all of my equipment. I've experienced increased function and durability as well as a longer life expectancy thanks to Valvoline's array of products and lubricants. Since 1866, Valvoline has been focused on bettering your experience, whether on road, on track, and everywhere in between. Upgrade to Valvoline today and check them out at valvoline.com. SSI Decals is a name synonymous with ATV racing, synonymous with big-time success, and absolutely synonymous with the best-looking decals around. An offshoot of their parent company that was established in 1947, SSI first took shape from owner Ian Harris's passion for ATVs. With what started as just making numbers and decals for riders like Chad Wienen, the company quickly took off, and today you couldn't imagine ATV motocross without SSI decals. The graphics maker and designer now supports all the top teams in ATV motocross, as well as teams and riders racing GNCC, Work Series, Pro Motocross and Supercross, Canadian Pro Motocross, short course off-road trucks, UTVs, snowcross, and oh yeah, 6-time NHRA World Champion Clay Milliken. No project is too big or too small for SSI decals, making your identity stick with championship level graphics. Head over to ssidecals.com today and then maybe call the doctor because things are about to get sick. The Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast is brought to you in part by DID in their range of championship winning chains. Powered by technology, DID chains are designed to give you the greatest strength to weight ratio, making them the optimal chain for racing and giving you a championship level edge. DID has been driving championship-winning race programs since 1933, chosen by champions such as Chad Wienen, Joel Hetrick, and myself, Cody Janssen. Champion above the rest is DID's 520 ATV2 chain, with those same design principles and materials being used throughout their entire line of products, including their on-road category as well. Pick up a DID chain today at your local dealer or a reputable online e-tailer. DID. What drives you?
We are proud to be partnered with Numira Technologies. Since 2001, Numira has led the charge in the ATV and side-by-side market, covering more applications than anyone else in the industry. Numira's advanced piston technology uses a NASA-exclusive aluminum alloy that helps to reduce expansion rates, that allows for tighter tolerances, and leads to higher overall engine performance for your machine. For more information about Numira's wide offerings of pistons, rings, gaskets, and industry-leading top-end repair kits, visit your local dealer or online at www.numira.com. Numira Technologies, pistons with an attitude. We are pleased to be partnered with Bronco ATV and UTV components. Bronco has been an industry leader in replacement hard parts and accessories for all makes and models for over 15 years. With a catalog that includes a full line of electrical components, engine internals like rods and cylinders, all the way down to suspension parts and bearing kits. Bronco is your hard part source for whatever you need for whatever you ride. Available exclusively through distributors around the world. Visit your local dealer or online at broncoatv.com. Forworks Carbon's innovative lightweight products include top-notch seat covers, carbon fiber and plastic hoods, gas tank covers, exhaust shields, shock guards, and much more. Whether you have an ATV, UTV, or snowmobile, Forworks has the goodies that will improve your ride and make you salivate. We trust Forworks for increased function and a sexier look, and you should too. Forworks Carbon, always working hard to bring high quality and innovative parts to the market. Check them out today at fwcarbon.com.
So Bryce Ford was great in Moto 1. He finished third there, but early in Moto 2, he crashed while running fifth. So he got up, he raced up to the seventh spot by the finish. His 3.7 scores were good enough to earn him fifth overall in the day. But most importantly, and most impressively, for the second week in a row, he was able to extend his points lead for that race for the third spot, despite not enjoying a perfect day. Was stuck in the first corner in Moto 2 at Redbud. He suffers this crash at the start of Moto 2 at Loretta's, and still is able to stretch that point lead for the third place spot. He's looking good. He's looking mature, and honestly, he's in the driver's seat for that top three spot, Casey, because there is something to be said when you're suffering these hurdles, when you're taking these blows, and you're still able to do what you need to do and not crack under pressure. That's been impressive. I've been impressed with Bryce down the stretch here. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It seemed like he had like a second half of the series resurgent.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they changed or what he changed his program or if he just took some of the pressure off his shoulders. I don't know, but it's definitely come better. And even, rebounding from a crash or, as far back as him and Jeffrey were at Redbud to rebound where they're at. I mean, he's literally making me eat my words in a sense of his consistency because he's impressive and he continues to put, a couple points a weekend on Jeffrey. And right now, with 8 points separating those two, for Jeffrey to be able to surpass Bryce going into Briarcliff with 2 motos on the board. I mean, there's 50 points on the board there that could be had. So, for Jeffrey, I think he's going to need to put himself in a position ahead of Bryce, both motos, and have a very, very consistent day. And, when you're finishing thirds, fourths, and fifths, there's not a lot of points gap there. You're not making up, you're better off if you finish first and your guy finished second, you make up more points than if you're third and the other guy's fourth. So to have it, he's going to need Bryce to have a bad moto and him to have 2 really good motos to be able to get himself in that third in points. But either way, I mean, this has been an exciting battle to watch, and whoever comes out on the top is definitely, very impressive. And all these guys have been impressive. To me, they're all still in the hunt in a sense, but only having 2 motos left, it's hard to say that now with the gap back to Janusa from Jeffrey. And then, the gap between Max and Nick is very tight. And the role that Max is on right now, that's going to be the sticky one. I think there's more heat on that battle right now because the 2 points. That could just be the difference of a fourth and a fifth in a moto or a third and a fourth in a moto on who ends up with that position there for the top 5. The Jeffrey and Bryce one, if both those guys go out and ride consistent motos, I don't think we see a huge change there. I know either one of those guys would definitely like to see. I mean, Bryce obviously doesn't want to see a change, but Jeffrey's going to go out and lay it all out come to Briarcliff, with nothing to lose in the sense of he would have to have a really bad day for Nick to pass him. I think there's 10 points between Nick and Jeffrey right now. And so, I mean, we got a heated battle from, third to sixth right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's gonna be fun to monitor. We'll tie up some of those topics here when we conclude this thing in a couple minutes. Okay, so finishing up the pack here though. First, despite 2 hole shots, Brandon Ho goes 6-6 on the day for 7th overall. Someone may need to go check on Brandon because this is not going to sit well with him.
No, definitely not. And he went up, he did the podium thing. He went through those motions and stuff, and then he was sitting on his bike afterwards, and I was standing right there with him. And I've seen this happen at Loretta's, and it was with John, the year he won championship, which he had gotten ran over in the heat and all the other stuff, but they start changing colors. And it's basically a heat thing and an exhaustion thing. And he was like trying to talk to me, but he wasn't making any sense. And he just kind of sat there, and I'm like, Brandon, give me your stuff. I end up carrying his stuff back over to the TDR rig. And I was like, Brandon, you need to get back to the truck and you need to get cooled down. Like, I knew there was nothing really, really wrong with him besides the heat had obviously gotten to him, the just physical exertion from both motos, and he just wasn't himself. And so, yeah, I mean, he's definitely not going to be a happy camper. He's it's not going to be a good week for Brandon because he's going to be so hard on himself. But in all honesty, I think he just needs to take this week off and probably ride like once or twice next week and once or twice the week after and just kind of let himself recoup going into Briarcliff because he has so much potential. And, it's kind of what we said the last time, like, Brandon, you're young, chill out on yourself, chill out a little bit on your training. Like, you're doing something, and I think it's too much, which we don't always get to say that about guys, but that's where I think he's at right now, is just take a few days off. I even heard Chad say on the podium, he's going to take this week off. There's a reason he's taking this week off. These guys, they know their bodies, and you don't get to Chad's position by not knowing your body and knowing, okay, a week off right now is going to be a good thing for me. It's going to benefit me more than hurt me. Brandon, take a week off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that there's a lot to be said when the 7-time champ is saying he's going to take a week off. I think a lot of guys should probably listen to after what that exertion, that, gnarliness that you put your body through at Loretta's and that heat and everything. You definitely got to recoup from that. So there's something to be said about Chad Wienen doing that. So Brandon should probably consider doing something like that. Casey, any chance that we're going to see him go back to the Honda, because he's been very clear that's where his heart and his comfort zone is. I guess I'm not talking about right now. I'm talking about maybe 2022 or whatever. But do you think he's going to stick with Yamaha, or are we going to go back to the Honda?
No, I think, the Honda's already been sold. Timmy sold the Honda before Redbud, so that thing's down the road. I don't see him making that move for next year, going back to the Honda. He's found his comfort zone, and he's enjoying the Yamaha now. And really, right now, I think the focus is getting him a Yamaha to practice on. He's still practicing on a Honda, and then jumping on the Yamaha on race days. So I think for him, it's just about getting him a practice program together with maybe a stock bike, and then a replica of his race bike that he could ride a couple days a week and then just beat on that stocker, because we all know how legit the stock bikes are and how fast these guys can go on them and how well they hold up. So I think for Brandon, that's definitely probably the game plan moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. I think that we're going to see him grab another gear when he can practice on something similar to what he's racing. I mean, we've said it before on these shows, but racing the Yamaha, practicing on a Honda, that's not necessarily the easiest thing to do as a rider. So I do feel for Brandon. I don't think we're necessarily seeing him at his best. And I think that when he's able to get that whole program together, we're going to see him grab another gear. Finishing up the rest of the pack here. So Logan Stanfield is rock solid again, 8-8 for 8th. That's kind of been his spot all season long, but was it a little less hectic this time around, Casey, at Loretta's? Because we know that he had to overcome a lot at Redbud for that 8th there.
Yeah, I think his day was pretty smooth. And I felt like he rode really well. Same result, but him and Cody Ford in a battle again, like we've seen so many times this year. And so, he's not racing against slouches. He's racing, and those two are battling it out, for the entire moto. So, but bike-wise, no crazy gremlins pop up out of the middle of nowhere. It was just a smooth, real smooth day for him. I think I've changed a couple clickers for him, and he was relatively happy with his machine all day.
Yeah, he killed it. It's been impressive, how he's become so solid. Like he's been in the top 10 every single race all season long. That 8th place spot has been his slot basically all season long. So that's been impressive. And did you see him? I think it was the first moto, because that would have been when the gates were maybe a little more sketchy. The start was a little more sketchy. Did you see him choose the all the way outside gate?
Yeah, definitely. And, when a gate's like that, it could come from anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a long way around that outside, but you're so straight going into that corner. Your apex and the amount you have to slow down is drastically better than everyone coming from the inside, because you have to make a way harder right-hand turn to get around the corner, where he can just kind of straight line it. So as long as you get a decent jump and you don't get hung up, which he kind of did, it really drug him down, because they had been pushing the mud from one side to the other, trying to spread it out and trying to dry it out as they push it across. And that's kind of what I had anticipated them doing all day. So paying attention to where the last time they pushed the mud to was very important. And I don't think it was 100% the right choice, but with where qualifying fell and where he was at, I think it worked out good for him.
Yeah, I was sweating it a little bit because he was on my fantasy team this week, and I was sweating it. It seemed like a little bit of a gamble, but it all worked out for him.
He did have it wasn't 100% mellow day. He did bend an axle so bad on the second lap that he ended up sitting out most of the first qualifier.
Oh, really?
I forgot about that. Yeah, he sat there with me for the whole qualifier watching, and I'm like, just man up and go ride the thing. and I picked up the rear end, or Timmy or someone picked up the rear end, and holy wobble, there was no way he was going out on that machine and being able to ride that thing without just destroying the entire bike and himself in the process.
Oh my gosh. I wonder where that happened.
You do 10 commandments, you go in the back and you come around, you do the off camber and you do the table. And then there's like the table that we've seen like Bryce Ford and Joe Hedrick jumping, going table to single. He come up short, I think on accident. We'd have to ask him to have 100%, but he come up short on the knuckle, like the roller after, and just whopped that thing right there. It was bad.
Okay. And that's why I asked. I wondered if it happened there, because when I was eyeing that up in practice, I'm like, man, I think the whole pro class is going to jump it, and not really, that didn't end up working out that way. So I wondered if that's where it happened. So, okay. So wherever Logan Stanfield is, odds are Cody Ford will be right there as well. 9-9 for Cody, yet another top 10 finish for him. He had another good solid day, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Cody's, he's showed himself to be a consistent top 10 guy this year. And that's exactly what he's doing. And those two have been swapping positions, and I think with Wesley being out, I think we're going to end up seeing those guys, move up a position in points, and their consistency shows that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was actually eyeing up the points there. It looks like Logan is very much in play to move up one spot with Wesley being out. It would take a really, really strong day for Cody to do it, I think. But yeah, it could potentially benefit those guys that Wesley's not going to be able to line up for these last two. Okay, so the guy that might have impressed me more than anyone on the day, Vitek Nakenyak. Welcome back to the top 10 for the first time since early March. He was 10th at the opener. And it wasn't just the fact that he put it in the top 10, but he was able to hang with Cody Ford in Moto 2. And that's what really impressed me. He stayed right with him. That was super impressive. So major props to our Polish rider, Vitek Nakenyak. He was impressive at Loretta's, and he's, been a guy that I feel like it's almost like I've been monitoring him to see, like one of these weekends he's going to have a breakout ride, and maybe just the grind of the season and learning all these tracks and, being in a new country, all these things. I figured that was maybe just weighing on him, but man, to do what he did at Loretta's, he was a different rider this weekend. And I guess that's what I wanted to say. I mean, he was impressive.
Yeah. And, like I don't get to watch him all the time. I do try to watch every rider a couple laps during the moto, just so one, I don't sound like a retard when I get on the show, and two, like I want to see the progress they're making, and watching him and all the things that's going sort of against him. I was watching him wash his bike after the first moto. Johnny Hale did step in and help him some throughout the day. I think he ended up pit boarding for him and stuff like that. But I really hope he gets to come back next year and race another season. And I think we're going to see him continue to progress as time goes on with that being, because he's going to be more comfortable. He's going to know, okay, I know how to get to this racetrack. Right now he's just relying on Google, just hoping for the best, and he's just driving there. And I think there's some guys that have taken him under his wing. I always try to stop in at least once through the weekend and just check on him and make sure he's not in full scramble and, doesn't know what to do or whatever it is. So I hope he gets to come back next year.
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope so too. I mean, we have to remember that that's a guy that was recently a dirt bike rider and came from Europe, is here kind of on his lonesome by himself, figuring out all this for the first time. And I saw that Johnny was pitboarding for him or whatever. And I thought to myself, okay, so if Wesley doesn't go out, is he just by himself? Like, does he not have a pit board or anybody at the gate or whatever? Like, I did think that. I'm like, man, this poor guy. Like, I know that guys are stepping up and helping him out as much as they can and kind of putting their arm around him. But I'm like, man, like to do this all by yourself, basically, I can't even imagine. Just Casey, plug us in Europe by ourselves with a quad and a van. Like I can't even imagine.
No, you're completely lost. And, maybe we're soft, like, cause I know the old school guys used to go do that. Ryan Hughes, Mike Healy, I've listened to a lot of their podcasts that these guys talked about, and they pretty much did this stuff that he's doing right now. But they did have a little bit more, I think, of a support team. Like where he's literally doing it on a relatively, reality budget. He's living in Airbnbs and traveling around the country. And I can't say it enough. I hope he comes back next year, because I think he's going to get the rewards that he was looking for in his first season by coming back for the second season and kind of knowing a little bit more. He's made some friends now. He's not nearly, and this sounds really bad, he's not nearly as awkward as he was at the start of the season. And I don't mean that in any disrespect, but like he's fitting in. He's there. He's hanging out with everyone. Like, he's made friends. I think he was actually staying in Wesley Wolf's motorhome. So, you know what I mean? Like, he's making a home here in the States racing our national series. And so, I mean, if he's listening, I hope he comes back. Yeah,
I hope so too. I know he's a listener. So, VTech, we definitely want to see you back. Congrats on an awesome weekend, putting it in the top 10. That's great result at Loretta's for him. Finishing out the pack, then Cesar Jimenez was 11th. I think that he was maybe battling some bike stuff. Michael Allred, who suffered a mechanical failure in Moto 1, he ended up 12th overall. Zach Harris was back and finished 13th overall. And then Wesley Wolf didn't start either moto after his scary incident in qualifying, of course. Casey, I want to ask you a couple questions before we get out of here. So with a 22-point gap and 2 motos remaining, Chad Wienen wins that 8th title 99 times out of 100 at Briarcliff. That part is obvious. So what would Chad Wienen tying Gary Denton's record mean to you? The record that Gary set in 1994, what would that mean to you? This is a hot button topic, because anytime I reference this in one of the posts, you'll have 10 guys hop on and say, it's not the same. It's, they used to race TT and motocross and blah, blah, blah. And Gary Denton did it consecutive years. And I understand all that, but there's also factors in today's racing that maybe make it more difficult as well. So I wanted to ask somebody that's been around for as long as you have and so plugged in like you are, what would it mean if Chad Wienen won that 8th title at Briarcliff, something that we expect to happen for him?
I think it solidifies this era, and it goes back, and I'm sure I got a bunch of buddies that are old school guys in this sport and stuff, and this is going to piss them off, but at the same time, yes, they did GNCC and they did TT and they did motocross and stuff like that. We don't really have, I guess we have those options, but we don't have to do that now. They had to do that back then, and we're not in that position. They're not making us do, multiple different disciplines. These guys are focusing solely on one discipline. You can't take Joel Hedrick and Chad Wienen and go put them in a GNCC now and expect them to win. You're not going to take Walker Fowler, Bryson Neal, and those guys and put them in an ATV motocross and expect them to win. We've seen some of those guys come over and race with us. We've seen Joel Hedrick and Chad Wienen and Max Lindquist go race GNCCs. And when Max goes and races GNCCs, he's not even racing the XC1 class. He's racing, an under class, where Chad and Joel, they're going there racing XC1. And they're finishing, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 12th, somewhere in there. So the disciplines are different. These guys are specialists in their discipline. So for me, I think it solidifies the era of this ATV motocross right now. And it's not taking anything from Gary. Gary's a bad dude. Tim Farr's won a million championships. All these guys are legends, but I think it's going to add some of the prestige that we've been sort of lacking to bring us into what we need and to bring Chad to be one of the greatest of all time. So my interest in it would be to see what the reaction would be if Chad was to win 9 titles.
I agree. The part that stands out to me, you look at the list of champions and you see Gary and his 8 all in a row there. And then you see all the legendary names, Tim Farr and Gust and Jeremiah. And then you get closer, and it's Wimmer and guys that won multiple, in more recent years. John Natale was around for all those years, all that stuff. And then you see Chad Wienen, 7 and 9 years, as we see now. It could end up being 8 and 10. And it's like you saw all those legendary names, and none of those guys were able to really even come close to anything like that. And then you see Chad Wienen do it, and it just feels like the second coming of Gary Denton. And that, man, when people look at that list, just like we're looking at now, whether it's 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 years from now down the road, this decade of Chad Wienen, really dominating. And it's not like he was by himself either. Like he was racing guys like Joel Hetrick that were gnarly and winning tons and tons of races. Just what he's done is amazing. And if he gets to 8, which again, we presume will happen, that'll be impressive. And then, yeah, like you said, like if he's able to get to 9, man, I wonder what they'll say then. I just feel like there's some of those old school guys that you're never going to convince that what Chad's doing is legitimate or whatever.
And rightfully so. I mean, that's their era. This is our era. And, we're always going to argue that our era is better than the last era, or that era, those guys are going to argue their era was better than this era. And I mean, it goes back to Roger DeCoster and Rick Johnson and those guys back to the dirt bike side, what I mean? But think about the names that Chad's had to beat in championships. Dustin Wimmer, Josh Kramer, Joe Bird, John Natale, Joel Hetrick. I mean, that's Tim Farr, Shane Hitt. That's the same list of guys just in this era of racing. So, you can't take anything from either one of them. Obviously Chad's going to come back and try to compete for a 9th title. And I think, that's something that is presumably, a possibility for Chad. And I hope he does come back and battle for that. And it's pretty obvious he's gonna. He has made no mention of retiring, and he shouldn't. He's still at the top of the game and one of the elite guys in the sport.
This is the thing. A decade ago, we all would have said, nobody ever gets close to Gary Denton. And here we are. That's the amazing part. The fact that we're having the conversation itself is amazing. He's presumably going to tie the record. It's incredible.
Yeah. And it's exactly like, we would have never even thought of that. And to think that it was going to be Chad Wienen, knowing Chad as long as I've known Chad, for him to be where he's at and as consistent and learned and been taught himself how to be a champion and do it so many times, and consistency does it. Chad was not a consistent guy. Chad was a ticking time bomb every time he was on the track for years. And so seeing that, whether it was him joining the Blue Crew, was it him, getting serious injured in 2012, there was 11. A lot of years, or 11. Yeah. So there's a lot of years that were before that led Chad to this. If Chad would have figured out this maturity and this consistency and this racecraft in 2009, we could be talking about 11 championships right now, or already 10 championships, or whatever it was, because of all this. And he was in form. He was a championship contender in 2011. He won his first title in 2012. So, he broke his back in 2011. John Natale ended up winning the championship. Those two were swapping points back and forth. That series was going to come to the last race. Whether I really like it, or John really likes it, or Chad really likes the way it went down. Obviously, me and John liked the way it went down, not because Chad was injured. John was injured also. So, the tempers can flare on that. There was so many politics and so much stuff that went on that year. But to go back, I mean, if he would have figured out this racecraft, I think that's the easiest way to say it. If he would have figured out his racecraft earlier in his career, we could be talking about a completely different situation. We could be talking about a guy that is 12 championships in right now. So to try to take anything away from that because it's not the same era of racers is complete nonsense.
Yeah, there's so many what ifs. I mean, you're referencing the Can-Am years, and Chad said that, he was ready to win on that machine if, he was winning races, but I mean, he was ready to win a championship had he not gotten hurt. Go even previous to that. And he said that, the year where he was on Kawasaki. They finally figured that thing out. He's winning races. He said they were ready to win a title on that thing the next year. And then that effort closes. I mean, think about how history could have totally changed. Yeah, you could have more titles, but it could have changed the whole landscape. I mean, maybe Kawasaki would have stayed in it if they're winning, winning championships or whatever, stayed in it longer. I mean, who knows? So there's so many what ifs, but again, the fact that he's in this, that it looks like he's going to tie Gary Denton's record is amazing. And who knows what happens going forward. But the fact that we are where we are, and he continues to get better and all these things, it's honestly, it's incredible. What he's done this season is amazing. I just didn't think he was going to grab another gear like he did. So
we could have a complete show on not just this topic, but just talking about the Kawasaki era of race days and how close they were to consistently winning races. The Can-Am, how they came from basically not being able to finish races to winning championships. And Suzuki still winning championships and pulling the plug. I mean, that's a show one day that we can have, and we can get some guys that, both of us know very well on the show, and we can all kind of talk about it together. It'd be exciting.
Yeah, that's what we need to do for sure. And I look forward to that. Okay. So Bryce Ford, we talked about this a little bit. I'm just going to ask you parting question here with that. So Bryce Ford is 8 points up on Jeffrey Rastrelli with for that third podium spot in the series point standings. What does Jeffrey have to do to finish the season ending points in the top three for the first time since 2016? I have to imagine, and he's got, again, we touched on it earlier, he's got to have a perfect day. And I think that might mean he can't even finish third. Honestly, he might need to get some good starts and have some kind of renaissance ride, even more than we've seen this season. Because like you said, if you're third, fourth, fifth, I mean, those positions don't have enough points in between them. His perfect day might mean he needs to get a hole shot and finish second or something.
Yeah, or a couple moto wins. And Jeffrey is one of those guys that has the speed to do it. But yeah, I mean, he's got to beat Bryce by quite a. And so finishing third, fourth isn't gonna be what it takes. So he definitely needs a couple, seconds. I think if he went 2-2 and Bryce went 4-4, I think it would tie them in points. If I'm correct, because I think that would end up being 8 points. And so I don't know who wins the nod there. I think it would come down to best overall finishes throughout the year, which is going to be damn near a tie again. So, which would be cool. It'd be interesting and exciting to see it come down to a dramatic fashion like that. The Ford camp obviously doesn't agree with that, but the Rastrelli camp does. So, that's why we're going racing. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know the end result until we get there and we get through the day.
Hey, look at the world we're living in right now, that we got these battles throughout the series points. I love to see it, because that's something, when we're just slotting Chad, Joel, and Thomas in, the podium spots every weekend like we have in years past. We would love to be in a world like we're living in right now. So this is awesome. Okay, so we referenced this. This is kind of my last pro class question here for you, Casey. Nick Janusa moved up into the top 5 in the pro class points this week, somewhere he's always been when the season's ended. We touched on this a little earlier in the episode. He's never finished outside the top 5 in a championship points season at the end of the season there. So here comes Max Lindquist, though. As soon as Nick Janusa gets in the top 5, don't look in your rear view, because here comes Max Lindquist, only 2 points back now after consecutive podium finishes. Whoever ends up beating the other at Briarcliff could very well be the one that gets that top 5 spot. So who you got? Red hot Max Lindquist or the always steady Nick Janusa? I had to put you on the spot at least once in this episode, Casey. Who are you going to take if it comes down to those two for that top 5 spot? Because that's what's going to happen.
I'm going to go Wiley veteran.
Okay.
Janusa. He's never, in his entire pro career, he's never finished outside the top 5 in overall
You're exactly
points.
Right.
Yeah,
He's always been 4th or 5th, and that's where my gut goes too. As much as I pull for Max. He's a Wisconsin
Max is
kid.
So hot right now. I know. Coming 2 podiums. He can't get his head in the trailer right now. So that's a tough one to do, but I'm going to go with history repeats itself, and Nick comes out top 5.
He finds a way to do it. I think, and again, as much as I always cheer for Max, I pull for him, all those things, but Janus has always done it. He's always done it, so it's just hard to see it not happening, but we'll see. They're going to settle it on the racetrack, and that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. We might see history. I mean, that's a tough one. And
saying Max is red hot doesn't even do it justice. I think he's white hot right now because man, he's on fire. Okay, so that was the complete coverage of our pro class there. I love how we broke it down. I feel good about that. Before we wrap up, let's cover some of the other classes here quickly from Loretta's as well. Starting with Pro-Am, we saw some great racing again between Bryce Ford and Zach Decker, specifically in the second moto there. And Zach confirmed that he's going to go pro in 2022, Casey.
Yeah, it was funny because when we were recording the last show, I was like, why wouldn't he go pro?
Yeah.
And so I text Jason during the show, hoping to get a quicker response than I got. Just I tend to do that while we're doing this so I can kind of get some answers and be 100% confident in them. And Jason texted me well after we were done recording, and he said, well, we're not 100% sure if he's going to make the jump to pro. We want to make sure that he's going to be ready 100% and consistently in, say, the top 7. And my response was, he's definitely ready. What are you waiting for, in a sense, to them? Because I feel like Zach is ready. I mean, his speed is very good. He's battling, with Bryce race after race right now. There's days that Bryce has another step that Zach doesn't, but we're talking about 6-8 months from now where Zach Decker needs to be. He doesn't need to be there necessarily right this minute. He's got some time to progress. And this weekend, I mean, there was another one. Those guys battled, Bryce, didn't have the best of starts in the second moto. And, he battled with Blair Miller for a while, which was impressive to see out of Blair. He was riding to a level that I expect from him. I know his parents expect that level from him. And I think it was good for Blair to see that number 4 in his rearview mirror and all over him, and prove to himself, like, look, you just held off a guy that's 3rd place in points in the pro class for, I think, 5 laps. I don't know exactly the lap count, but I mean, they battled for a while, and, Bryce got around him. Bryce did exactly what I expected. He said, here, let me show you this wheel real quick, and move Blair out of the way. 100% clean, especially with the way the track was laid out. You're going to have to bump and move, and that's what those guys are doing. So Blair learned a lot from it, and then he proceeded to run down Zach and make a move on Zach. And it was just some silly mistakes on Zach's part, but that's fine. Like, he's so young, and he's learning so much. And by Bryce racing Pro-Am, it's actually making, like Blair and Zach Decker and Joseph Chambers, and when Aaron was in there, unfortunately Aaron's been hurt, but when they were in there racing against him, they're learning what one of the top guys are doing. So I think the move to pro for Zach is definitely the right move.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure. That's a guy that he wants to get on the podcast here. I'm thinking we're going to maybe get him on next week to talk about some of this stuff. But yeah, that was a great second moto to watch there. Incredible racing there in Pro-Am. And yeah, I think we kind of heard his plan though a little bit already, that his plan is to do what Bryce did this year, that Zach's going to go back and do the Pro-Am thing next year. And the plan is to do the pro class as well. So to be on that Bryce Ford model like Bryce is doing this year. And that makes so much sense. I mean, Zach, if he was just out there racing by himself, ahead of the pack, like he would be if Bryce wasn't out there, we'd see minimal growth maybe, than compared to what we're seeing now. I mean, Bryce is teaching Zach things that can only be taught being in a race situation between the two of them. So, awesome situation, awesome learning experience for Zach to be out there with Bryce. And Bryce even said to me at the beginning of the weekend, he doesn't care about the championship. He said, if Zach could have the title, that'd be fine. I just am out there for practice, for seat time, for more racing experience. And we're trying to figure out this Yamaha. That's right from Bryce Ford's mouth. He doesn't care about the Pro-Am championship. Zach can have it, he said. So love to hear that. Love to see that, but go ahead.
I mean, I believe Bryce in that sense. And in that case, like I'd say, okay, then Bryce, if you don't really care about it, then sit Briarcliff out, give the championship to Zach. But
Sure.
I honestly, knowing Jason Decker, he wouldn't let Zach go up there and accept that championship. Like, that's how hardcore Jason is. So,
Sure. Yep.
Bryce, don't sit out Briarcliff. Please race and let this thing come down, because there's only 9 points separating those two right now. That could go either way. We've seen Bryce actually have a pretty rough Sunday, if you think about it, because he did race pro stock. I think he made a total of 4 laps in pro stock, flipped over twice, once in each moto. So I hope Bryce comes back for Briarcliff and races pro stock. I think it'll be a benefit. I'd love to see him out there. And, I know Bryce isn't going to sit out Briarcliff, but I want to see those two battle it out. And there's a position here with the throwaway and stuff that, this thing could still go to Zach Decker. And it would mean so much more if Zach won the championship by beating Bryce Ford to win that championship than if Bryce was just to basically, quote unquote, give him the championship by sitting it out. But, that's honorable of Bryce at the same time to say, I don't care about the championship. I'm using this for development and racing against a guy that is fast enough to race me very hard. And that's what Zach Decker is doing. So Zach needs to wear that big on his shoulders that he's racing against a guy hard.
100%. I think what Bryce was doing is talking through me to the fans out there that have been gnarly to Bryce this whole time. And I think he was basically saying, I don't care about the title. I don't care. I wasn't trying to cherry pick, and that's not the right word, but I wasn't racing this Pro-Am season to win the Pro-Am title. That's what he was saying to me. He was going out there to race and get more seat time and do all this stuff on the Yamaha and experience some growth. So it's been awesome to watch, awesome to see. And I guess to tie that whole thing up, it would be boring if Zach Decker was out there alone, and we're seeing Zach Decker get better. So the fact that they're out there battling, growing, gaining experience, all these things, they're 2 young riders. What Zach went through this year, title or not, or however that all plays out, he's a better rider right now than he was at the beginning of the season. There's no doubt about that. You touched on pro stock a little bit. Did you see those races at pro stock, Casey? I think Chad Wienen got the win. Joel Hetrick was second. Nick Janusa was third. Those 3 went 1, 2, 3. Tell me about pro stock a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was a dogfight. I mean, Chad pulled the whole shot the first moto, and I think he pulled the whole start, or no, he come out second. Joel made a small mistake. I think Chad got around him, but I mean, just a dogfight. I don't know what it is. I don't know how he does it, but Chad rides that stock machine incredibly, and so does Joel. I think Joel almost pushes it too far at times, like watching, being in the tower and actually paying attention and watching the machine and stuff. He's pushing it so hard. I can see him make up, 2-3 bike lengths on Chad, which is very hard to do in that class. And then all of a sudden he loses it because he pushes the bike, I think, almost a little bit too much. I think there were some things going on, maybe mapping wise or something in the first moto with Joel. Not 100% sure, but I know they kind of made a couple of changes for the second moto. And actually, I don't think Joel ended up pulling the whole shot in the second moto, but Chad, I mean, just rock solid. I mean, he kills that thing. And that's another one of these championships that I think is going to come down to, the last moto at the last race here at Briarcliff. So those two, I think they're close in points with, some of the turns and events this year. And I think they get a throwaway and stuff like that. It's going to be interesting, but I think Joel's in a position to win that title right now. And I think he wants to go out on a high note. So I think he's going to be revved up for Briarcliff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's been a class that's been so fun to watch all season long. I love that class. Yeah. So the pro sport podium was Brett Musick, Zach Decker, and Blair Miller. Congrats to those guys. Brett won 25 plus ahead of me as well. Dane Molander, one of your guys, he wrapped up his titles and is graduating into the pro-am and pro sport classes full-time. Neve Shaw won the WMX class ahead of Maddie Trower and Michaeli Vantium.
Do you know why Andrea wasn't there? What the deal is with Andrea?
Well, so I'm pretty sure that Neve said that Andrea got COVID. I'm pretty sure that that's what I heard.
Really? Okay.
I'm almost sure of it.
I thought I had heard that too, but I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah, I heard that from Neve Shaw on the podium. I mean, that's what I heard. So obviously prayers to Andrea if she is
definitely.
if she is dealing with that. The 250 classes are just sick. Joey Norris and Tino Abatiello got the wins there in the 250 classes. Styles West got some wins per usual. Anyone else or anything else that stands out to you want to touch on, Casey, as we wrap up things from Loretta Lynn's?
I did get a text from Ron Jackson. I believe Mason has 2 of his 3 classes locked up and has a shot at the 3rd one. So that's pretty good. So I think for him, if he can lock up all 3 championships, he's going to bring it down to the wire there. Obviously you touch on Dane. Dane's got both his championships locked up and he's shooting for Pro Sport and Pro-Am. And I think he's got some pretty big shoes to fill in the sense of going into Briarcliff with the high that he's on with winning so many races this year, doing so well in Pro Sport early in his young career. So I think that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, so much good racing right now. So I can't wait to see how all these classes play out and see how all the championships play out and then kind of give that some coverage from Briarcliff there, but awesome. Let's wrap up on that note, Casey. We'll save some of the further discussions heading into Briarcliff for next week's show, heading into the finale. But Casey, I can't thank you enough for making some time for us here while on your family trip. That means so much to me.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Cody. And the family just come downstairs here and met up with me. Bub's right here with me. So nice. Exciting. I appreciate you having me and making this thing happen early this morning because we got, a full day planned here to try to go out, but, having so much rain yesterday and that kind of stuff. So we're going to get some exciting activities for the kids today. So we'll talk next week and get the preview show for the season finale.
Yeah, go have some fun. I obviously love the Gatlinburg area there. And one last thing I want to touch on, Casey, as far as Impact Solutions goes, man, I had one of my sets of shocks refurbished by you guys at Impact Solutions there heading into Loretta's. And guys, I kid you not, they look brand spanking new now. They're working some magic over there at Impact Solutions. So Casey, your guys slated. I said the same thing to Jay when I saw him over the weekend. But man, incredible work. And I can't thank you guys enough, obviously, for being part of the show, but always supporting me and treating me like royalty as well. I mean, Impact Solutions is the place to go for anything suspension related. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. And that comes down to the guys in the shop that are there all the time because I'm always on the road trying to come to the races and out testing and doing the things that I need to do to try to provide the best stuff that I can provide for our customers. But yeah, Dustin and Tyler, I mean, can't say enough about those 2 guys. We sat and talked a little bit at the race about our process of just how we clean suspension, and we've invested in a machine to help us clean. Plus, we're putting in time with Q-tips and all this little stuff, just prepping the shocks before we'll even open the shocks up. We don't want any contaminants to get in there. We don't want anything to bypass each other, and so that's we've treated it, and Tyler and Dustin, they keep the shop looking like a laboratory all the time. One day we'll have to do like a short video of just what the shop is like, and awesome. Jay has put us in a facility that is above so much. I mean, it's incredible, from the truck shop to the shock side of it to the offices. I mean, our facility has just come so far, and we have it's been really, I'm very blessed to be put in a position to succeed. And I feel like as a company for Impact Solutions and, with all of our customers, I'm very thankful that I've been given the tools that I need to try to succeed and get us to where we need to be.
Yeah, well, as a rider, I'm blessed to have Impact Solutions on my side, having been an Impact Solutions rider for so many years now. Digging Deep is blessed to have, Impact Solutions and you backing us, and, credit to those guys in the shop. But Casey, you're the man. Thanks so much for everything.
Thanks, Cody. We'll look forward to it.
Thanks to Blenders Eyewear. Use discount code DiggingDeep20 at blenderseyewear.com. Thanks to Impact Solutions and Casey Greek. And on that note, that's a wrap on the 38th running of Dirt Days at Loretta Lynn's. Thanks again, Casey, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
See you, Cody.
Thanks, pal. As the #1 podcast in ATV racing, it's only right that we partner with the industry leaders in suspension tuning. Insert Impact Solutions. Impact Solutions is a full-service ATV and side-by-side suspension center specializing in the revalving and service of your motocross and off-road suspension. With over 25 years of elite-level knowledge, experience, and testing with riders of all ages and ability levels, Casey Greek, Jay Goebel, and the Impact crew strive to exceed clients' expectations for service and setup. Impact Solutions is the official Elka Suspension Service Center of the United States, offering unmatched product knowledge and experience. Whether you're in need of service, parts, warranty, sales, or technical support, Impact Solutions has you covered. Head over to impactsolutionsatv.com or give them a call today.
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
The following message is brought to you by Manscaped.com. The Manscaped engineering team has outdone themselves this time, creating the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, now available for purchase in the US and Canada. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, an official sponsor of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, with this exclusive offer of 20% off and free worldwide shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. I'm one of the first people to try the new 4.0 and I am blown away. This thing is next level. What sets this trimmer apart from all the rest? The Lawnmower 4.0 gives you the ability to turn the LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. It features a new multi-functioning on-off switch with travel lock for those of us who like to travel. And my favorite, the new trimmer allows you to customize your trim with 4 different guard lengths, an upgrade from its predecessor that only featured 2. If you're listening, you know that good tools are a must, so wait no more to get the best tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com by using code DIGGINGDEEP20. The Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast is also sponsored by DP Brakes, a longtime supporter of ATV racing and the world leader in sintered brake technology. DP has been dominating the ATV world for decades, supporting the best four-wheeled racers on the planet. 2021's impressive lineup includes Joel Hetrick and Jeffrey Rastrelli of the Phoenix Racing Team, myself, Cody Janssen, and my back-to-back national championships, Baldwin Motorsports, Ford Brothers Racing, Nick Janusa, Wesley Wolf, and many more, including all of the top 14 GNCC Series pros, led by the champ Walker Fowler, Bryson Neal, Cole Richardson, Jared McClure, and Chris Borich. These top riders continue to appreciate the high performance and impressive durability that their DP brakes have to offer, products that ultimately help place them on the top of the podium. Available at www.dp-brakes.com, purchase at your local dealer, or message the show for their contact info today. What are you waiting for? Join the best ATV riders in the world on DP Brakes. 15 years into the brand's existence, Factory 43 is back with us and continuing to make huge waves in the ATV world. For the second consecutive season, Factory 43 is the official aluminum parts choice of the Phoenix Racing ATV team, providing their state-of-the-art Evo Nerf bars, MX-style front bumpers, and grab bars for some of the fastest riders on the planet. If you're in the market to upgrade your Nerf bars, bumpers, or grab bars, head over to factory43atv.com to see their full line of products available for all makes and models. Want to be just like Joel Hetrick and Jeffrey Rastrelli riding with Factory 43's industry-leading products? Head over to factory43atv.com today. Bikes, Trikes, and Quads LLC has been supplying riders with aftermarket components from the industry's top brands for over a decade. With over 80,000 products in stock for your ATVs, UTVs, metric and HD motorcycles, dirt bikes, and snowmobiles, Bikes, Trikes, and Quads LLC can tend to all your powersports needs, from hard parts to riding gear. Bikes, Trikes, and Quads also offers hard-to-find used parts for your vintage dirt bike, ATV, three-wheeler, or snowmobile. Use discount code ATVMX at www.btqllc.com for 10% off of orders of $100 or more. We're grateful to have Bikes, Trikes, and Quads LLC digging deep with us. Thank you, BTQ LLC. We are proud to be partnered with Gripped Gloves. Gripped is an ATV rider-owned and operated brand with the rider in mind and the goal of keeping costs affordable. The Michigan-based family operation recognizes riders' desire to showcase their identity. Owner David Payne's love for eccentric colorways and crazy patterns shows in his product, something not often found in the work of big manufacturers. Here to push stereotypes and limitations, Grip's drive is to produce a glove with cool colors and designs that won't break the bank. With comfort and quality as key motivators, the family affair is constantly working on the next more innovative and improved glove. Get a grip on life, join the Gripped movement, because no one wants a bland glove. Check them out today at grippedgloves.com. That's GRIPT gloves.com, and use discount code DIGGINGDEEP10 to save at checkout. Just like the sport of ATV motocross as a whole, our Digging Deep community is brought together by the love for racing that we all share. Our sport is compiled of many great people, and leading that charge is the Launderville family at Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply. This racing-owned family business is a steel and concrete supplier serving the entire United States. Launderville Steel is a full-service steel supplier of new and surplus steel, aluminum, and stainless steel products, headlined by their 4130 chromoly tubing and plate used in the building of chassis for ATVs and UTVs, off-road truck racing, late model dirt and pro tractor pulling series, drag racing, and more. Launderville Steel loves their racing just as much as we do, but don't forget about their concrete division as well. With over 25 years of experience, the concrete division can supply everything you need to complete your next business or personal project. Their central Midwest location enables LSE to easily serve customers across the United States. For a quote, additional info, answers to more of your questions, or to talk a little racing, head over to laundervillesteel.com or give them a call today. We are proud to be partnered with yet another racer-owned company. Thank you, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply. Thanks for listening, and remember to support our partners. Now back to the show. All right, guys, this next guest is someone I've been wanting to get on for a while now, and after a stellar weekend at Loretta's, there couldn't be a more perfect time to get him on. Brought to you by our friends at Rocky Mountain ATVMC, your one-stop shop for parts, gear, and everything in between. Click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website, diggingdeepatVMX.com today for all your gear and parts needs and to help us out. This guy and I went pro at the same time. We raced each other for years and years, and we're back lining up against each other once again here in 2021. Say hello to Mr. Brett Musick. Brett, welcome back to Digging Deep. Welcome to Digging Deep, I should say. First time.
Hey, Cody. I definitely appreciate you having me on. And like I said, I always listen to it every week. So it's definitely pretty cool being on the podcast finally.
You know, so when I went to message you to extend the offer to come on the show here, I was reminded that you messaged me after Digging Deep's very first episode saying that it was fun to listen to Chad and myself. So first of all, thanks to you for the kind words dating back to day one. Thanks for being a listener. And most of all, thanks for being a guest tonight. I've been really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, that's no problem at all. It definitely, I mean, it makes the race trips traveling to them. It definitely passes some time for sure. And it lets you know a lot of history about it, a lot of different things. And it's definitely pretty cool to be on and always listen to for sure.
You know, hopefully it makes people like more excited for the races too. Like, I feel like the more context and stuff like that, it just makes it more exciting. So hopefully we're kind of fueling people's fire there. So kind of like I said already, so you and I have almost always been connected. I feel like, even though you're a little younger than me by like four years or so, we went pro at the same time, and our race programs, I always felt like at least we're kind of comparable to each other. The odds were stacked against us. You know, even like when we were kind of coming up, I feel like there was more teams and stuff like that. And at the beginning, like, I don't think that either of us were a part of that kind of thing. We were kind of just doing things within our means. And, but we were still out there doing the pro class gig and probably living out a lifelong dream. Does that make sense on kind of how I'm saying that there? I feel like, you know, we had similar programs for a lot of years. And with that, I felt like I kind of had a connection to you.
Oh yeah, I agree with you for sure. I guess starting out, I kind of started on the media all-star team. It was more when I was my first year of B class, and it was Chase Cunningham and George Cortez, best group of guys you can possibly deal with for sure. And I think that helped me getting started, because I mean George and then they really pushed social media, and but other than that, I mean, I've been, like I said, kind of like you, just kind of always doing our own thing. And just always went from there with it.
Yeah. So the Media All-Stars thing was kind of before its time. I mean, that was like the social media and stuff that was at the very beginning of all of this. So that was kind of before its time. And at the end of your kind of pro career, I know you were doing the Coster thing. In the middle of there, didn't you ride for Chad early in your pro career at one point? I mean, I know it wasn't like a ride for Chad type deal, but didn't you ride out of Chad's semi for one season? Wasn't that a thing?
Yeah, I think maybe in
15.
I think my
was
first
that?
year. Yeah, I think it was 15. My first year of pro, my uncle Scott Ellis, he helped me more than I could have imagined my first year. It was, I guess in 2014. He started helping me in 2013.
Okay.
And we had a good couple years there, and he bought a couple quads for me and just absolutely decked everything out. So I mean, without him, I definitely don't think any of this would really even be remotely where it's been over the years. And then in 2015, we went under Chad's tent for a little bit.
Isn't it funny how like it's like these little things happen and they lead you on this path to where you are today. It's crazy how all that works. But tell me about that Chad thing, because I was always curious what that was like to race under that kind of umbrella there. And I know, I mean, that was kind of the early days of this new Yamaha. I think like riding the Yamaha then wasn't like riding one now or whatever, but tell me what that was like to ride, I guess, underneath the Wienen Motorsports tent at that time.
I mean, Chad, just to start out, Chad's an absolutely great guy. I mean, still to this day, I mean, if I see him in the pits, he's the most respectful and about the best role model you could ask for sure. And I definitely respect him for that. But I mean, that year, it was kind of a rough year. I mean, the year before that, I hurt my back, and that was my first year back after that. And we jumped on the new machine, and it was just kind of a struggle. I mean, the quad itself was great. It's just my whole life I've been on PEP shocks, and we kind of swapped it up that year and went to Fox. And like I said, not saying anything bad about any other products. They work great you can see Chad's won how many championships on them. I mean, great things. Right. It's just, I guess, for certain riders, it's different feels, the suspension and everything. And I think that was a big part of what I didn't like about the quad.
Okay.
But the riding for Chad itself, I mean, it was great. I went down south a little bit over the winter to train with him and stuff, and just what you learn off of, I mean, it really is. It's a great experience for sure. Yeah,
that's awesome. I mean, I was just curious to kind of ask about that. I remember back to that time and some of the conversations that we had, back then, and there was an adjustment period, and I knew that maybe that machine didn't jive with you the way that you were used to, but still, like, riding underneath that umbrella had to be something special. So that's why I wanted to touch on that. But that year wasn't all bad. I mean, you had back-to-back 6th place finishes in 2015. I think it was Crawfordsville and Sunset Ridge, I believe. And you had some more 6th place finishes, the rest of your pro career, but I believe that would have been your best finish in the pro class, right? Was 6th place.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I know back in, I can't remember what year. It was one year we went to Monster Mountain. I think the year after Wienen, and I was back on the Honda then, and I qualified great, and that was actually my first ever pro hole shot. And I can't remember if I was around. I know I was around the top 5. And daggone both motos, I'm pretty sure the last lap of both motos I broke down.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, why I wanted to touch on that was, and I've said this a number of times on these shows, so you'll have heard me say this before, but like 6th place feels like you won when you're like a normal dude, and it's funny how that works, because hopefully Digging Deep is filling some of those holes and giving some people some coverage. But otherwise, like, you get 6th in the pro class, you come back to the pits, you feel like you won, but to like the general public, like, they don't even know what happened, like nobody's watching 6th place. Hopefully we're adding some of that coverage. But yeah, I feel like that's something that you celebrate as a rider, but nobody else even knows it's happening when you have an awesome finish like 6th place. Like, that's legit, especially with how stacked some of those classes were in those years.
Oh yeah, it was definitely, I mean, anytime you finish up there around that position, it definitely is a great feeling. And that's like the Michael Allred that you guys got on a couple weeks ago. I was pumped to death to see Mike up front at Unadilla.
Right. Yeah, me too.
That's just the same type of thing. I mean, for us guys, me, you, like Mike, that's getting a top 6. I mean, that's definitely a great day for sure.
It's working class hero, just the blue collar guy out there grinding.
Yeah, it's definitely some fun for sure.
Yeah. So my last season in the pro class was 2017, and that was basically yours too. You lined up a few times in 2018, but for the most part, we hung up our pro class boots at the same time. So I wanted to touch on your fondest pro class memory, and you might have already touched on it because I was going to ask you if ripping that whole shot at Monster Mountain in 2017 was a highlight. Maybe it wasn't after you ran up front all day, but suffered those mechanicals like you just referenced. But when I think about your pro class career, and those 6th place that you had on the Yamaha earlier always stood out to me, especially Walnut for some reason, Sunset Ridge. But that whole shot, like those pictures are burned in my mind, and I was on the racetrack too, but seeing the pictures of you ripping that whole shot at Monster Mountain is kind of burned into my memory. So if I asked you your fondest pro class memory, what would you tell me?
I would say for sure that Monster Mountain weekend was the fondest. I was just going to mention that picture too. I think it has a picture of me pulling the whole shot. I know for sure it was Hedrick, and I'm pretty sure Weenan and Natalie and all of those guys were in the shot right behind me in like the 2nd or 3rd turn. And like I said, it was a great day until the last lap of each moto. I was like, if it was going to break down, I wish it would at least done it kind of in the beginning or halfway and not the daggone very last lap.
Right. Like it baited you in, like you were going to, like, this was going to be finally the day, put the thing in the top 5, and then tragedy strikes. What I was going to ask though, is I can't believe you didn't get more hole shots, Brett, because you're like a hole shot machine. I feel like you always were. And I couldn't believe that you didn't get more.
Yeah. Honest to God, in that, like, Pro-Am, every single class I run, I'm usually always up front.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's where I was younger or what, but in the pro class, I was always just kind of timid. I didn't really seem like I want to pull a whole shot at without those up front guys. Mm-hmm. And I wish it wasn't like that. I feel like if I get in there now, I could definitely yank some starts, but
right.
It was just kind of a mental thing, honest to God, it really was.
Isn't it funny how that works though? Because when you're like not expecting to race like up front, I don't know how else to say that, but I mean, I would have went through the same thing. It's like you just don't get starts. And then as soon as you expect to be up front, I mean, you can even look at the dudes that hole shot the pro class now, like the guys that are up front are the guys that are going to finish up front. Like they expect to be up front. And it's just funny how that works.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I mean, if you pull a whole shot and you have Joel Hetrick and Chad Weenan and all those guys right behind you, it's a different feeling for sure. It's right. A few people. I mean, it's different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So one of the reasons why I was so excited for this conversation was I think like you and I can probably speak on this subject because of our experiences being so similar. I know that I guess I felt like you were one of the very few people I could have this conversation with, and I felt like we were going to be on the same wavelength. So at the end of 2017, I ended up, not racing the pro class anymore, and I was done. I wasn't having fun. I had fallen out of love with the sport. The pro class had basically chewed me up and spit me out. In 2018, when you raced the pro class for the last time, did you have like a similar feeling, or how was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, being in the pro class, it's great. Don't get me wrong, but it's just for the working guy, it's definitely very hard. And like I said, I had a little bit of some back issues. Was my biggest downfall in the pro class, because I mean, those long motos, I honest to God, I hurt for probably 3 years, and it's just now not hurting. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And I was ready to be over with it for sure. And I would say now coming back and racing the classes I am, I mean, it's probably about the most fun I've had in a very long time racing, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that you couldn't have said it any better, because that's exactly how I felt. And me too. Like I had broken some vertebrae in my back, whatever year that was, 2016 maybe. And that was a huge proponent in me stepping away too. Like it's not that, like, I still loved it, but I think that zapped all the fun out of it for me, because I was in so much pain. Like I'd get off the racetrack and I'd have to lay down because my back was hurting so bad. So I feel like I can probably relate to that as much as anybody. Your saving grace in a lot of those years, though, was you were slaying it in the Pro-Am class for most of those years. So I bet that at least like that part was a blast. Even if Saturday sucked, you still had Sunday to look forward to, and you won a lot of races, a couple Pro-Am championships as well, right?
Yeah, I won it in 13, I think 2016 also. And the 2016 season, I would say all around that was my best and about most dominating season other than my early B class, which is completely different. But I definitely, in 2016, it was a good year for sure. And I think we would have won maybe the first 4 to 5 rounds, but at Crawfordsville, the first or second moto, it was a mud race and we had an electrical issue. And if it wasn't for that, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it would have been around in the first 5 rounds of the season. I'm pretty sure I would have won all of those.
Okay. Yeah. And I remember, having to race you in some of that period too, and just how strong you were in the Pro-Am class at that time. And then when you won in 13, I mean, that would have been your first full season in the Pro-Am class, because I was going to ask you about your Pro-Am debut, and we can touch on that in a minute, in 2012, but in 2013, you won Pro-Am in basically your first full season, in the Pro-Am class. And that's pretty freaking impressive too.
Yeah, it just basically boiled down to getting good hole shots, and I wasn't always the fastest, but every single weekend I put myself up on the box for the most, not every weekend, but just the majority of the races that season. Mm-hmm. And we just strung together some consistent motos and just ended up putting together. And I think we wrapped it up, I want to say maybe at Redbud that year. I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think so.
And it's funny how that works, because I guess what stood out to me at that time was, like, if you and I saw somebody, jump up from the B class right now, and next year he wins the Pro-Am class by being consistent and up front the whole time, like, that would be impressive. And almost even more impressive than that was like your actual Pro-Am debut. And I was going to ask you if you remember that, because I sure do. It was 2012 at Loretta Lynn's, and you had raced the B class that season. You already touched on that a little bit. Media All-Stars, you were super young, like you must have been 16 or something. And here comes this B rider. And the reason why I remember it so vividly, so Cody Gibson is leading, go figure. I'm second, and I look back, and here you are in third. And I remember thinking, there's no way I'm letting this B class kid beat me.
Yeah, my first Pro-Am race was actually at Unadilla that year.
Oh, was it really? Okay.
It was a Pro-Am Unlimited though. It wasn't the Pro-Am production class, how they used to have both classes. And
okay.
Actually, I think that my heat race, I think they had a heat race up there, and I ended up finishing second. And I was going to put it on the podium in the second moto. I think I'm not 100% sure what I ended up place I was in, but my CDI box, where it mounts to under the hood on the TRX, somehow the bracketed bolt had broke, and I think there wasn't too many more laps to go. And I remember just absolutely launching the sky shot, because my quad just was sputtering so bad. I didn't want to let off the gas, and I jumped 3/4 away down that hill.
Oh my
gosh! Ended up dying on me right at the bottom of that hill, so it kind of shot the foot in that race. That was actually the first moto, because we couldn't get it fixed before the second moto, because it messed up our wiring harness, and it was it was an ordeal. But yeah, going back to that Loretta's round though, that was Pro-Am production that you were talking about, right?
I think it was. So maybe was that your first Pro-Am production race then? Was that the scoop?
Yeah, that was my first Pro-Am production race.
Okay, and, so that's why I thought that.
Yep, I raced Pro-Am Unlimited at Unadilla that year, and then at Redbud, I think I got second in that heat race also. And the second moto, I wrecked on that tabletop after the whoop section. I was in maybe fourth that second moto.
Okay.
And so I probably would have, if everything would have went smooth, hopefully put it on the box there also.
Okay. And now that you say that, I do remember you being in Unlimited for those couple races before Loretta's, and yeah, so that's what I was thinking. And I remember, like, there's some of those photos from Loretta's too that are burned in my memory. So maybe that's why I was like thinking Pro-Am debut, but it was really Pro-Am production debut. But anyway, so talking about that race, finishing that up. So the 2-lap board comes up, my quad blows up, and it was over for me. But for you, you went on to podium that day, right? I think you podiumed. That was your first Pro-Am production race. You ended up podiuming, and so you wrap up the B class titles way earlier in the season. You jumped to Pro-Am, made the box almost instantly. And I remember, thinking like, this is unheard of. Like, I can't believe that this kid is doing this.
Yeah, it was. I definitely remember. Honestly, it's pretty funny. My most memorable, or I can't even say a word for that
Memorable,
weekend. Yeah, I had a Rossier exhaust, and it for the try to make sound or whatever.
Okay.
And you know how the end caps of an exhaust is like fully enclosed off, and it would come through the vents.
I do. Yeah,
and
I remember those. Yep.
It was that type of exhaust, and I didn't realize it. And I swear that race, my quad got so hot, I'm surprised it didn't blow up. And it was just running that exhaust. I don't know, it was just kind of funny to me. It's kind of weird, I guess. It was just a funny moment.
Right.
And,
it looks like an accordion.
Yeah, it was something crazy for sure. But yeah, we, like I said, same difference in that race though. We put two motos together, and just I've been pretty good at that my entire career, is being pretty consistent, and just ended up running strong and put it on the box. And it was definitely a great way to end that season for sure.
I can't believe that was 9 years ago. That's incredible. So another story I heard from your younger years, and I can't even remember who said this to me, and it could totally be a myth, but I needed to ask it while I have you here. But the story I was told was you had one machine, like we're talking way back, like mini quad days. And in between motos, your dad would pull the 70cc motor, or I should say you would have the 70cc motor in the machine for the 70 races. And then you'd have to pull it out, swap it out for a 90 motor for the 90 classes, same bike, same weekend. And you were flopping motors. Is there any truth to that? Or was that a myth that I heard back then?
That was actually my 90 and my Super Mini, my 105 motor.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, we would race the 90 mod, and then we'd swap that out and put the 105 Super Mini motor in. But my whole career, even for that though, like I just can't thank my dad enough. I mean, my whole career, he's been the one to do all my motor installs. He tears them apart, puts them together, and just the whole 9 yards. In our little 10x10 building in front of our house, we built a lot of championship motors out of that for sure. And I mean, we would send the heads off and everything and get our head work done. But my dad, he would fully assemble all the motors and all that stuff after working about 60 hours a week at UPS. And he definitely put a lot of time into making my career being what it was, racing for sure.
How cool is that? How talk about dedication, swapping motors and to race certain classes. I mean, that's incredible. Like I can't believe that. That's why I needed to confirm this. That was amazing.
Yeah. He would swap those, and he'd still race himself too.
That's so crazy. Yeah, that's the next thing I wanted to touch on is your dad's a great rider himself, and you guys doing this together for however many years, 15, 20 years, whatever it is at this point. How that's the coolest thing to me. So how much does that mean to you to be able to still share this? You're 25, he's racing 50 plus, to be able to share this with your dad at this point. I mean, that just has to be the coolest thing. I can connect because when I was younger, dad raced locally and so did I, but now still you guys doing it at a national level all these years later, that has to be the coolest thing. Like I love that about you and your dad still getting able to travel the country and race and do all this stuff. That's so awesome to me.
Yeah, it's definitely, it honestly, God, it really helped over the years too. Like when I was on a mini quad, he, like on our practice track at the house and stuff, he would spot me and try to chase me down. So it'd make me ride hard. And then once we moved up to the 450s and I got quicker and I could spot him. And even though I was faster than him at the time, I always wanted to go catch him and pass him. It definitely helped me out. And it's awesome for sure. Like at Loretta's this past weekend, I mean, I was on the podium, he was getting ready to race, and we both had great weekends, and it's always been a good feeling for sure having both of us out there. And I wish he'd hurry up and retire from UPS and we could go and put some more time together.
Yeah, for sure. Just the fact that you guys share that same passion and are able to share it in a way that you're able to like still ride and you know, go to the races and both compete and all that stuff, like that's just so cool to me. So yeah, I needed to touch on that. So you turned 25 this season, which meant you could run the 25 plus class now. And I know you dabbled a little bit in some of the amateur classes the last few seasons after stepping down from the pro class. But when I turned 25 and started running 25 plus, I absolutely, you know, fell in love with the sport. You kind of confirmed already you're having the most fun maybe you ever did. And taking the pressure of the pro class out of the equation made me love the sport literally more than ever. And again, you touched on this, you kind of confirmed this for yourself already. So to me, it seems like you're experiencing something, you know, quite similar to this season to what I did back then, kind of falling in love with it and all that stuff. Like, I feel like, you know, there's so much pressure of the pro class and stuff, but to do it on a little bit lower level now, you know, it's not like when you're young and you have goals of going pro and that kind of outweighs everything. Now when you're doing it just for fun, man, it's like, I never want to lose this. Like, I never want to step away. Like, I always want to be able to do it and enjoy it at this level.
Oh, I agree with you for sure. And it's always good too, like having you in the class and Zach in the class and Hags, like him coming out. It's a blast getting out there and racing with all these guys. And we don't have to go 15 laps anymore, which is definitely a good feeling.
Exactly.
But
exactly. So for me, you know, and this was my fourth season this season, and I know I was on an abbreviated schedule or whatever, but this is my fourth season after stepping down from the pro class. And so in 2018, Mosier and I battled to the death for that title, and then I won back-to-back titles the last 2 years. But what I absolutely love is throughout, you know, this period of time and me kind of being a part of it, these last few years and all the other riders that have been a part of it as well. I absolutely love that, you know, 25 plus has become a premier class, one of the absolute gnarliest classes in the sport. And I love that because that's how the dirt bike world is. Like, to win the 25 plus class on the two-wheeled side of things is a huge deal. It's comparable to the pro sport class and dirt bikes. And you're really seeing that kind of happen with quads now. For example, just like you said, you, me, Zach Kazmarek, Mitch Reynolds, Davey Hagsema just this weekend at Loretta's. Those are some of the examples of the fast ass guys in 25 plus this year. In the past few years, I've had to race Nick Mosier, Brad Riley, Nick DeNoble, Chad Reed, Josh Creamer, Michael Allred. I battled for that title that year. Silas Lamons, Johnny Hale, Nico Covey, Richard Pelchat. I mean, the list goes on. All those past pros running 25 plus. This class is gnarly, and to win that is a huge deal. This class has been transformed into one of the premier ones, and that's a cool thing. And then, like you said, it's all kind of guys that are in a similar space, right? Like, nobody's trying to kill each other. We're trying to all have some fun. The races aren't too long, and it's not too hard on our equipment, where you're all able to kind of do it within our means. Like, 25 plus is badass, and it is awesome. I mean, I just love that the ability level and the quality of the racing is as high as it is. That's only, like, it can't hurt the sport. It's only good, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's like before I turned 25 plus. I mean, the 25 plus class, every single round I would come up and watch you guys. Cause I mean, it's seeing different people come out on all the rounds, and it just makes it interesting to say, like, hey, if, like you, for instance, if you run all these rounds and Josh Creamer shows up, who's like, and he hasn't raced in so long, and it's just a great fun class to go and see how everybody still stacks up. I mean, it really is.
Well, in this year too, Brett, like it's kind of must watch racing. I mean, I've been in some of them, but, you know, you and Zach, and there's been, you know, Mitch was there at the beginning of the year, Davey Hagsman now, like, I mean, the racing is incredible. Like, just to watch those guys, to watch fast guys like that, like that's a fun thing. And in 2021, you know, obviously has been a great year for you, but Loretta's this past weekend was obviously the highlight. It obviously was, with how, you know, perfect of a weekend you had, but 1-1 in 25 plus ahead of me. I got second. And then you come out and win the overall in pro sport. That's the first time you've raced any other class, I think, this year, other than 25 plus. Hop into pro sport the first time, win that thing. Tell me about that. Cause it was literally a perfect weekend for you. That had to feel so good.
Yeah, starting out for sure. It was a great weekend, no doubt about that. And that I wasn't even gonna race pro sport, but the past couple of weekends I've seen you and Zach and everybody get in there, and I've had a little bit of time to train here recently, and I felt like I could go the 6 laps pretty strong. And it's just the first moto, I got maybe 15th gate pick, and I was on the way outside, and I came into the first corner, maybe I would say 10th to 12th. And somehow in that next little wood section, I moved up to almost to like 4th place.
Okay.
I don't know if I just picked the lucky line or what, but we got up to 4th pretty quick. I think I was 4th the first lap, and I think me and you battled for a couple laps, and I think the mud tires at moto definitely hurt you a little bit. For sure.
They did. I knew I was going to have a bad gate pick because for whatever reason at Loretta's, they go off points, right? So
points. Yep.
Yeah. So I only raced pro sport twice previous to Loretta. So I knew I was going to have a crappy gate pick. And I figured, well, my best bet is to go get a good start and hang on from there. And I would have been perfectly fine because I found myself in second there, and I know I would have been perfectly fine. I don't know that I would have held on to second, but the goggle that I put on social media,
yep. I remember you saying that. Yep.
My tab broke off on my goggle lens or whatever. So there went all 15 of my tear offs. And I couldn't see anymore. And I wear contacts. So when the mud gets in there, man, it's miserable. Any contact wearer would know that. So I was like, you know what, because, I'm by, you and Blair Miller and Zach Decker and all these guys. And I'm like, I can't do this battle. I'm not going to put my eyes through that. It just wasn't
100%.
But yeah, so you had a killer moto there, and then another good moto in the second moto, put it all together, and it ends up being, an overall win. So tell me what that felt like. That had to be incredible.
Yeah, it felt great for sure. We in the second moto, it started out again. I mean, I put myself in a good position off the start. I ended up yanking the whole shot.
You had the best gate too. I mean, I knew when I saw you go to that gate, I'm like, Brett's got this thing.
Yeah, it started out good, and the first lap I hadn't really jumped that triple, but like one time, I think maybe on Friday's practice, and Decker passed me on that triple, and the first 2 laps, honest to God, I kind of hung his speed. I think we both put down 147s that second lap, and I got a good little gap on third the second moto, and after that I kind of ran a pace where felt like I could make sure I got third or second that moto, and third wasn't going to catch me, and I didn't really wear myself out, and it was a good weekend for sure. I mean, that's been the happiest I've been racing in a while for sure in that pro sport class. It felt good to get that overall and just get back out there, and it was a good time racing with the young guys. I'm sure you like to get out there and mix it up with them too.
It's so funny because you never think of yourself as an older dude, right? Like I'm 29 and I still same with you. I'm sure like your mindset's still like you're 17 or something, but to go out there and race against legit 17-year-olds like these kids, I'm like, man, like they got totally different perspective than I do. Sometimes I feel like that's good. Sometimes that's bad, but when you're the oldest guy on the line, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it was good to see some numbers in pro sport this weekend. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I got last gate pick the first moto, and I got 15th gate pick. So I know there's at least 15 guys.
Hey, same thing at Redbud. I had 18th gate pick in the first moto at Redbud, and somehow, came out of that whole shot all right.
Yeah, and it's good to see the numbers up, and that's what I hate about Pro-Am this year. It seems like when me and you race, there would be a lot more guys bouncing down, and we would get those numbers up in Pro-Am, and it would definitely be good if we could figure something out to get some more Pro-Am guys in there. That's definitely a blast to watch that class too, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know why it's so different now, because back then, I mean, there was 5, 6, 7 pros in it, us included. And then a bunch of up and coming guys, like there'd be 16, 17, 18 Pro-Am guys when we were racing it back then, but they were all gnarly. Like there'd be good guys finishing 7th or 8th, and when you were on the podium, man, like that was gnarly. It was not easy to podium. And it almost feels like pro sport is like that now. Like pro sport is stacked. And then obviously the quality of the riding in Pro-Am is amazing. There's just 5 guys on the track or whatever it is.
Yep. And like just my opinion on the class. I mean, it's a great stepping stone for pro. Don't get me wrong. It's just for some of these like amateur guys like me and you, it's just the long motos. If it wasn't that long of a moto, I mean, I feel like they would get more people jumping in it for sure. And if no pros are stepping back, that honestly, in my opinion, might be something for the series to look into. Because I know myself, if Pro-Am was a shorter race, I would love to get back out there and race those guys again. I mean, it would. It's just the working guys like me and you. I mean, we both would do great in the class. It's just for when you don't have time to dedicate yourself, and it's just something to look into. Because Pro-Am used to be I would rather watch Pro-Am than any class.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was the lights class of ATV racing. Like that was the next big thing. It's funny how it's all worked out this year. I don't know what the answer is necessarily. Nothing could change, and the numbers could totally change next year. Somehow that's how that works. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see how that all goes down. So you get the win there in pro sport. Did you see Nick Janusa's comment off the mower and onto the podium?
Yeah, that made me laugh for sure. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, I like that too. So over the course of the last few years, looks like you've built quite the successful lawn care, all service type business, which is obviously where the mower comment came from, of course.
Yeah, I started cutting grass when I was around 16, just kind of, and it was actually for Scott Ellis who helped me built those quads for him at the beginning of the year. It's kind of I mean, he's our family and everything, but we went and I worked for him for the summer, and he came out to his first national, and he was hooked ever since after that. So it's kind of pretty cool how he got into the sport. But grass cutting, it's led me into great opportunities with racing. And now, I mean, I never planned on doing it. I worked for UPS for 3 years, and I ended up quitting UPS last summer, and we're full-time into the mowing gig, and we're cutting about 300 yards a week right now. And excavation's picking up. I've had a guy on the road for probably 5 weeks now without having any hesitation and work on that side of the business. And it's a wide open, daylight to dark, 7 days a week thing going. I enjoy it though. I really do. It's
crazy to see how fast it seems like it's come up too. It looks like you're doing a little bit of everything. You got all kinds of stuff going on. How many employees do you have?
I've got 13 guys working for me right now, and I have 5 mowing trucks, 1 excavation truck, and 1 like hillside weed eating truck. So basically 7 trucks on the road, and it keeps me moving. That's for sure.
How cool is that? So the one thing I wanted to ask was, if you had one word of advice for somebody who's starting a business from scratch like you have, what would it be? Because it's not every day that somebody kind of build something like this just from the ground up. So I wanted to ask you if you had any advice for somebody who is, it doesn't need to be in that industry. It could be in any industry, but kind of getting started with a business like that. Would you give them any advice?
I mean, me personally, over the years, I've got myself into some crappy jobs. Don't get me wrong, but just never tell somebody no. I mean, if they ask you to do something, daggone, you be there. When you tell them you're going to be there 10 minutes early, and you just get that job done, get it done correctly, and just always show up. I mean, and just the main thing, I mean, this affects my business more than any. You got to have your own set schedule. I mean, if you're in one area they say an area 10 miles away from your house on Monday, every single Monday, I mean, you need to just keep everybody on the same schedule. And if these people are expecting you there between 10 and 11 o'clock, they're looking for you to be there, and just keep them on schedule. And I've done it now for right around 9-10 years. And out of every customer I have, like I said, we take care of about 300 a week. There's never been one person missed. I mean, since we've been in business, I mean, we're there every single week, one way or another. I don't care if we're cutting 10 o'clock at night with the lights on. I mean, they will get their grass cut.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's what successful people do, right? Like at all costs, basically.
Yeah. It turns into some long days, and we, like I said, some crappy jobs, but hey, we get it done.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. Back to congrats. First of all, on all the success with the business. That's amazing. Want to take it back to the track though. So how are we looking for this 25 plus title? I know, if you look at the you look at the points or whatever online, Justin West is leading with you and Zach a little ways back, just 1 point apart. I know that that's not necessarily the case as soon as you factor in throwouts and whatnot. Do you know, like, have you done the math? Like, what has to happen at Briarcliff for you to win this title?
I honestly, God, haven't really looked into it myself. I think Johnny Hale messaged me the other day, and it's basically whoever wins at Briarcliff should win the championship.
And that's what I thought. That's why I asked. Yeah.
Yeah, but if it happens, it happens. If it don't, I'm happy for whoever wins it. I mean, it's just good to be back out there riding, and we end up getting a championship. That's a plus for sure. But if Justin wins it, I'm tickled to death for him. That would be great for him. And if Zach would win it, I'd be happy for him too.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's pretty cool outlook to have. That's pretty special. Last question for you, buddy. I can't thank you enough for doing this. By the way, this has been awesome. I'm a big sports guy, and I always love to think of our ATV athletes and in other sports that they've participated in as well. So you were like a star quarterback in high school, right? And so give me the scouting report on you as a quarterback, because the scouting report on you as a rider is, you get good starts, your corners are a strength, you're fast on the ground, and so forth. But give me the scouting report on you as a quarterback.
Well, I played quarterback my whole career up until 9th grade. And in high school, I actually went to receiver.
Okay.
And like I said, I've always been pretty
then scout yourself as a receiver. However you want to do it. Scout yourself as a football player to me.
Well, me as a football player, like as a receiver, for instance, you would never see me really drop balls, and I wouldn't care if I would get absolutely rocked after I caught it. I mean, then normally that ball would be caught, and it was a lot of fun for sure too. I mean, I was quick, fast, and I was always caught the ball over the middle and nobody else wanted to.
That's awesome. The glory days for sure. Brett, this has been so much fun. I've wanted to do this for a while. I knew we were going to be able to have some great conversation that obviously happened today. It totally lived up to the hype, and I can't thank you enough for doing this. Great job this weekend, man. You killed it.
Yeah, I appreciate it for sure. And I appreciate being on the show, and congrats to you over the years too for all your success with racing and the podcast. I mean, it's grown into something big for sure.
Hey, I appreciate that, man. Hey, I'll leave you with this one final nugget. I almost forgot. So one last laugh for you. Not that you need any luck, but my girlfriend, Brooke, she was saying at Loretta's that, you have luck on your side because you have 4 living rabbit's feet with you at all times. And anyone that knows what I'm talking about right now has a big grin on their face, because I'm a huge fan of your girl's bunny. But she walks it around at the track, and I just think that's the coolest thing. You'd swear it was a small puppy. It's hilarious. And this rabbit's just, on a leash hanging out. It's the coolest thing. So she says that you have luck on your side because you have this rabbit. You have 4 living active bunny feet on your side, and hoping that she's like, say this to Brett, and I hope that he finds it funny. It isn't like offensive or something. So she says that luck's on your side because you have this rabbit.
Yeah, that's pretty cool for sure. I hadn't really ever heard that one before, but yeah, that daggone rabbit, he's something else for sure. He's the best little pet you could ask for.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. It's like something I've seen on the internet or on social media or whatever over the years. And then when I see it in person, like I saw it at Redwood, what's its name again?
Cujo.
Okay, so I saw it at Redwood on the leash, and it's just hanging out like it's during the pro race. Like there's people everywhere, and I typically, for whatever reason, like I think of bunnies as like skittish or something, and this bunny is not skittish. At least doesn't seem like it. Like it doesn't have a care in the world. There's people around running and walking and whatever, and this bunny's just chill as could be.
Oh, you ain't kidding. It'll see somebody walking, and I swear it'll start chasing after him, trying to get him to hold it. And it don't matter if it sees dogs, cats, whatever. It runs right up to him.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Something else.
So I guess, like I said, she says that you have luck on your side. So, hey, not that you need the luck, but luck can't hurt, especially going into this Briarcliff race. Maybe it'll all work out for you, pal.
Yeah, I hope we end up having a good, fun weekend for sure.
Awesome. Hey, you're the man. And really, 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 again, just want to thank you for doing this. This has been so much fun.
Oh, that's no problem at all. And thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much, pal. That's former pro and now pro sport and 25 plus winner at Loretta Lynn's, brought to you by Rocky Mountain ATVMC. Click that banner on our website to get your parts, gear, and everything in between, and to help us out. Brett, thanks again, buddy. It's been a pleasure.
Yep. Thank you. You have a good evening.
Thanks, pal. Talk about some great conversations. Good show tonight. The only thing I whiffed on is I meant to ask Brett about fantasy, because both him and Faith, his girlfriend or fiance, I'm not sure which, but I meant to ask them because they're both playing. Brett is currently sitting 99th in our fantasy league points, and Faith is 116th. So looks like they've been locked in a battle all season long, it looks like. And with only one event left, looks like Brett's going to have the bragging rights over his better half on this one for this year. So we'll see how it goes next year. I wanted to ask him about that, but we'll have to ask him that down the road. But great conversation tonight. Good show. Really pumped on this one. I felt really good about this episode. So major thanks to tonight's guests, Brett Musick and Casey Greek. Thanks to producer Dallas Janssen, my brother. Thanks to Brooke and AMA official Harv Whipple for all their help. Thanks to our newest donor, Justin Branham, my man. And thanks to the Stanfield family. Thanks to our sponsors, CST Tires. Go to shop.csttires.com. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew, Valvoline, SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Namura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Impact Solutions, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, Forworks Carbon, DP Brakes, Gripped Gloves, Factory 43, Bike Strikes and Quads LLC, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Support the brands that support our show, and don't forget to use those codes to save. Find it all on our website, and be sure to click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner for all your gear and parts needs and to help us out. And most of all, thanks to you guys for listening. Our show merchandise, including Digging Deep shirts and hoodies, our Quad Guys Get Hot Chicks shirts and hoodies, back-to-back national champ merch, and more are all available at shop.diggingdeepatvmx.com. If you're looking for another easy way to support us, visit our website and click the Buy Me a Coffee button. This allows you to set up a one-time or monthly contribution to support our efforts. You can call our voicemail line anytime, 920-569-3519, and follow the show on social media, Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, and myself, Cody Janssen, for additional content, Digging Deep ATVMX Fantasy Info, and more as the season finale comes into view. Thanks so much to everyone that's playing ATV Fantasy. It's been so much fun, and congrats to our two event winners from Tennessee, Patrick Edmonds and Isaac Borden. We'll get in contact with you guys about your prizes, but congrats to both of them for really thriving in the fantasy aspect of things at Loretta Lynn's. As far as the podcast goes, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and more. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. All episodes, additional podcast providers, sponsor links, and discount codes, our new show merchandise, fantasy info, and more can all be found on our website, diggingdeepatvmx.com, so check that out today. Be a friend, tell a friend, please download, subscribe, rate, review, and share. And we'll be back next week with an array of guests for our Briarcliff preview pod. So be on the lookout for that. Stoked for that. Really looking forward to that. But with that, for Brett Musick, Casey Greek, Brooke Catherine, Dallas Janssen, and I'm your host, Cody Janssen. Thanks for listening to the #1 podcast in ATV racing, 2 million downloads and counting. Until next time, thanks for joining us and digging deep with the stars of ATV motocross. See you next week. Things are crashing and burning here at the Digging Deep podcast, much like the Titanic.
Those guys were hauling ass, for real.
I remember watching Doug Gus, I don't know who it was, Steel City, running the same times Friday afternoon as James Stewart was on Sunday back then. It was mental. I've never seen quads go that fast.
Quad leaders are freaking gnarly.